Good evening. I'm David Assad, the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Fall River. It's 6:02 p.m. on Thursday, May 20th, 2021. We are meeting virtually via Zoom. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to Governor Baker's order superseding certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, dated March 12, 2020 at 8:40 p.m. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, subsection F, I hereby notify all persons in attendance that this meeting is being recorded with both video and audio devices. Our recording secretary this evening is Brittany Faria. She is recording an audio version, and Fall River Government TV, Alex Mello, is recording both a video and audio version. Brittany, am I correct that you're doing an audio version?
Yes.
Okay. If anyone desires to make an audio, video, or combination recording thereof, please notify me now and I shall make a public announcement of your intention. I don't hear anyone. Okay. Present this evening, virtually via Zoom, our permanent members, James Corkin, Secretary, Attorney Carolyn Morissette, Vice Chair, John Frank, Dan Dupere, alternate member Joe Pereira. Also in attendance this evening is the Director of Planning for the City of Fall River, William Kenny. Brittany, have all petitions to be considered been properly advertised and all interested parties notified in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Zoning Board of Appeals and Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, as amended?
Yes.
I declare the May 20th, 2021 scheduled meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Fall River open for such business as shall regularly come before it. I remind all persons presenting before the board, including the petitioners, abutters, anyone in support or anyone opposed to the petition, that your presentation should be limited to 3 minutes. Questions and responses must be directed through the chairman. The board's rules and regulations direct the board to specifically look for information which supports the petitioner's claim. As such, the petitioner should identify and factually support the basis for the petition. I hereby advise the petitioners and all interested persons that this board is the Zoning Board of Appeals. This board's authority exists pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, and is limited in scope and deals with the use of land as regulated by Chapter 86 of the Ordinances of the City of Fall River. Additional permits, licenses, reviews, and/or approvals may be required for specific development and/or use, which is the subject of the petition before the zoning board this evening. The clerks in the building, planning, engineering, and licensing departments are competent in the discharge of their duties as clerks. They are, however, not lawyers and are not competent to give legal advice. The action taken by this board has a real and lasting effect upon the title to your real estate. I urge all petitioners to seek competent legal counsel before filing your petitions and after a decision of the board has been made. For example, there is a city ordinance 2015-11, section 10-1 requiring site plan reviews. A copy of the ordinance is available at the city clerk's office or from the planning department. I remind everyone that the building inspector is the zoning enforcement authority, and you are here this evening because the building inspector has determined that your proposed action is contrary to the City of Fall River zoning ordinances. The city charter, section 9-18, mandates that all multiple member bodies develop and adopt rules or policy for public comment. We have adopted such a policy, which in short provides for citizen input on zoning board specific matters at the end of this meeting. I disclose that an official copy of the Fall River zoning ordinance is available at the city clerk's office. One cannot rely on the online zoning ordinance. I also disclose that a new recodified edition approved by the planning board and city council in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, now with its red grapefruit cover, is the official copy. Is there any questions before we start? Okay, hearing none. We'll start with agenda item 01, Rodman Realty Trust, 644 Rodman Street, Lot I-27, This was tabled from the April 15th, 2021 meeting. It's a variance and special permit request pursuant to section 86-424 to convert the existing non-conforming commercial warehouse building into 16-unit residential building while demolishing a second non-conforming commercial warehouse building and constructing up to 19 residential townhouse units in the BL district. I am advised that, Dan, I saw you somewhere. I thought there was a motion to have this taken to the, is it the June meeting or the July meeting? Or am I?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Dan Aguirre, SciTech CEC, here this evening on behalf of 644 Rodman Street project. And you are correct, Mr. Chairman. We had sent a notice earlier in the day today that the applicant requests to have the matter tabled for one more meeting. As we had stated back at the previous meeting, we were working with the administration regarding a potential acquisition of this parcel, and we felt that it would be better to have that resolved prior to the issuance of any permit. So yes, we would be requesting that it be tabled until the June meeting.
Okay. I'll have the board, we'll have take that up in a minute. I just want to make sure, is there anyone out there that was here in favor of this petition or opposed to this petition this evening? All right, there's a motion made, and I think it was by a written letter this afternoon, wasn't it, Dan?
Email. By
Email.
email.
Email to the board by which the board was notified that he would be making the request this evening to table it to our next meeting, which is June, what's the date, Brittany?
Sorry, June 17th.
June 17th, 2021. Okay, so we've got that motion. We had a motion by Dan. Does anybody want to entertain adopting that motion? Motion to grant, motion to deny, make them go forward tonight or continue it to the June 17th meeting.
I'll make a motion to grant.
Dan Dupere, was that you?
Yes.
Dan Dupere, motion to table this matter one more time to the June 17th, 2021 meeting. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jim Corkin seconds it. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. We have Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
John Frank,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. So that item is tabled to the June 17th, 2021 meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 1, True Brother Inc., 889 and 895 Grinnell Street, lots F4, 1 and 2. This is a special permit request to construct 2 townhouse buildings on a combined lot while raising 2 existing single-family dwellings and sheds, waiving frontage requirements in the Commercial Mill District, CMD District, number 889, lot size 7,845 plus or minus square feet, and 895, lot size 6,906 plus or minus square feet. Let me see, who's got the petition this evening? Who's presenting for them, if anyone?
And John D'Souza from North County Group.
Okay. You identify yourself, John, and tell us what you want to do.
Yes, evening, John D'Souza from North County Group. My client would like to raise the 2 existing structures each on its own lot and put up 2 new wooden buildings on the combined lot. We're here before you tonight because our frontage is approximately 11 feet less than the required 100 feet. And that would be the only portion that is undersized. We meet all the other criteria for the lots. We meet the outer setbacks and all that. We have received approval from the planning board. I believe it was approved under a minor application. And when we submitted for the building permit, it got denied because of the frontage.
I don't know whether Bill Kenny, I don't know what the planning board has to do. can you explain how the planning board got involved?
The planning board had to review for the site plan for the property.
Bill,
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. There was a site plan review, and I don't have that
so
record
it was a
with me
site
right now.
plan review.
And I believe it was approved subject to zoning.
All right, so tell me how, so you're telling me you think you just need a frontage waiver, except in this particular district, you need a lot of 10,000 square feet for the first building and 2,000 square feet, strike that. You need 10,000 square feet under the special permitting for the multifamily in that district. But you've got two buildings and you're gonna have them on. So why wouldn't you need a further relief by the zoning board to do this?
The two lots are actually combined into one lot, so the combined area is over 14,000 square feet.
Yeah, no, I got that. So now I have a combined lot that has 14,000. I have the minimum square footage. How do I get two buildings on there? By what particular right of benefit do you get two buildings versus one building? I guess is my question. Why isn't that the relief? Isn't that part of the relief that you should be looking for?
When we went through the building inspector's office, they stated to us that the only relief that they saw that was required for us was just the frontage.
Bill Kenny, what do you have to say about that?
Just,
I mean, when you were doing the site plan review, did that not come up two buildings on one lot? You now created a conforming lot by the merger of the two lots together. And now we're proposing two buildings on one lot. Why was that not an issue for the planning board?
two things. Again, I'm sorry I don't have that record with me, but again, my recollection is that this was approved subject to zoning being addressed.
No, I'm just asking, and I believe it's a special permit, that the special permit under our table, it says a special permit is the way to go for 7 to 20 units. Now, I get the unit part of it, and I get but I guess my question is one of, if we have this conforming lot now by putting them together with 10,000 square feet, and you've got the waiver of the frontage, because the frontage you need 100, and it's the representation was 11, but I think it's more than 11 based on the 83.
Yeah, it's actually like a lot of 14. It's we got a little over 86 feet of the frontage.
Yeah, 86.32. So
Right.
you're roughly 13.7, 13.68 that you're
Yes.
short.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask?
I'm
does
asking the
Brittany
question because I
have-
want to make sure you get the proper relief that you're looking for. If it's going to be two buildings, then I guess you need relief from the zoning board to have not just a waiver of frontage, you're going to need some for the two buildings.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if Brittany has the denial letter from the zoning enforcement officer that would address what he thought the issue was?
Yeah, the whole board has the packet.
What did the building inspector's office say?
Proposing to build
Good.
2 townhouse buildings on a combined lot, waiving frontage requirements in the CMD zoning.
The basis for the denial was what?
Did you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm asking, what does the building inspector's denial letter say?
Yeah, I just read that. So proposing to build 2 townhouse buildings on a combined lot, waiving frontage requirements. in the
Possible, waiving
CMD.
frontage requirements in the CMD zoning district is what it says. It's the form letter, and it says that it's contrary, So it says that, and it's contrary to the ordinance, and your permit is hereby denied. So they played back the proposal to build 2 townhouses and waiving frontage is contrary to the ordinance, and your building permit is hereby denied. So this board, if it wants to act, has to grant a special permit to allow the 2 townhouses with the combined 7 to 20 units. And I think, how many units were there, sir?
8
8
units, yes.
8 units. So I guess that's what's before the board. Do we say, yes, we're going to grant you a special permit to build 2 buildings and waive the frontage? And we'll do that as a special permit. So tell me, they're going to be single family units. Let's talk about the units now. Each building. How do you know how high
Mr.
the-
Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
just reading the letter of application, the statement was, in filing a special permit from the ZBA for the construction of an 8-unit multifamily. In the letter that was attached to our packet.
So the BA2 says, Jim, just tell me what you're looking at.
We have a letter that on the last page of the attachment that we have.
The last page from North County Group.
Yes, last, 3rd paragraph, last sentence.
Therefore, North is representing True Brothers and Mr. Francis for the construction of an 8-unit multifamily.
Yeah,
So that letter is what you're saying says an 8-unit multifamily. You're reading that as a single, as a 1 unit, 1 building, 8 units.
and usually signals a singular.
No, yes, okay.
But wouldn't Mr. Chairman, wouldn't the application itself be the overriding document?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Joe, that's what I'm asking. How
Yeah, how did we get here?
the relief is being asked. The petition says the BA2 zoning board of appeals application talks about the 2, going to combine it. We're going to do whatever. And it says we're going to put 2 townhouse buildings up and each one is going to have 4 units in it. So when I was looking at the plan, I see these 2 buildings versus I was expecting 1 building. And the relief that I'm hearing North Country Group talk about is just a waiver of frontage. And I think they need more than that if the board is going to go forward.
I agree.
So tell us about the buildings. How many, tell us about the units. Are they 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom?
They're each 3 bedrooms. So each building would house 4 units. So the ground floor basically has the 1-car garage per unit. Then it's got a mechanical room, and it's got the stairs to go up. The 2nd floor houses the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen. And the 3rd floor is the other bedrooms.
Going to have 8 units, 3 bedrooms. 1 park is the garage is 1 spot, 1
Right.
space. Okay.
Yep. And then there's other spaces along the rear of the property and along the westerly rear of the property as well. And then we have our stormwater at the southwest corner of the property.
Do you know how many total parking spaces you've got?
It's on one of the sheets. Hold on one second. Told you. So if we go.
Whatever page you need me to bring up, I can flip to that.
We have a total of 11 spaces out there.
In addition to the,
No, that
In addition
includes
to the
the
eight.
out of 4.
excuse me,
I mean, I'm sorry. I messed that up. We have a total of out of 14 spaces. So each unit has their own space inside the garage. So there's 8, and then we have
6
2
additional.
on the westerly property line, and we have 4 at the rear of the property. So there's a total of out of 14 spaces. And you can see the spaces if you go to sheet number 3. So if you're looking at sheet number 3, you'll see at the rear of the property, you'll see the 4 spaces along the back, and then you'll also see the 2 spaces on the west.
I say 4 parallel
Yeah.
parking spaces.
Yes, and then we also have the dumpster on that the rear corner as well.
Dumpster 6-foot fence, yeah.
So you've got the 4 across the back and how many to the north of the dumpster?
2. So there's 2 north of the dumpster.
If you look to the left, it says 2 parallel parking spaces. If you find the dumpster, look to the left
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
side.
got it. Seems
Now,
like-
that chart says that there are 16 spaces, including 1 handicapped accessible parking spaces.
There's another 2 spaces up in front on the Grinnell Street as well.
That says proposed concrete one-way parking space 9 by 18.
Yes. So there's another 2 spaces up
I
there
know,
as well.
but are those the handicapped designated spaces?
Those will be the handicap spaces because they're up at the front of the building, and we can add the ramp right there to them.
I guess the back building isn't gonna have any handicapped accessibility. Okay.
So,
Right.
so all in all, with the 2 handicap spaces, we're talking 16 spaces in total
Yes, yes,
with garages and outdoor parking?
yes,
That's 8 outside spaces, Joe,
Correct.
2
Yep.
of which are handicapped.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions, members of the board? Bill, is there anything that we should know about this before I ask if there's anyone in favor, anyone opposed? Because I don't know about the rest of the board members, but I'm kind of struggling putting my head around this and I need some help.
Not sure I have anything in particular that I could offer. Did you have any?
No,
particular
I'm as a
questions?
director of planning, what you listen to at site plan review.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I don't have that record in front of me, but my recollection is that the Department of Public Utilities was satisfied with the issues of stormwater and drainage and filtration and all the usual. I think we looked at the parking situation, and you've got, what is it, 8 outside, 8 under, so you've got 2 per unit. was a close call on that because two of those outside units are supposed to be reserved for handicap. The only other thought that I had, which really is not necessarily a site plan issue, but this property would be a residential use directly across the street from the Sam's Club, Walmart, mall sort of section. And I wonder if that's, the question is that an appropriate location for additional residential use? But then look at the neighborhood that it's in. It's on the edge of a residential area, but it's definitely a built-up residential neighborhood.
No, I mean, that's it. And when the ordinance provides for a special permit, if we find that it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood. But it's just it was the two buildings versus the one building versus the combined that was causing me, in my own analysis, some difficulty with it.
Well,
Okay, you've answered.
if I may, in
Yes, whoever
between,
that is.
I'm from North County Group.
Good,
I'm
John.
John D'Souza. So in between the two buildings, the space that's in between the two buildings, there is an attached roof that connects one to the other that goes up midway to provide a covered breezeway, if you will, on right between the two buildings. So that's why we said it was basically one building, because there is an attached roof in between them.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I might, the total number of units, total number of bedrooms, everything else is the same, whether you've got 4 and 4, you move them another couple of feet together and you get 8. I don't see the difference.
We've got a conforming lot. We talk about a building. If somebody wanted to propose 8 single families on it, I think I would have a problem with it. It just flies in the face of what I think the ordinance says, but we can certainly grant a special permit to do what they want to do if the board finds that it's not detrimental to the neighborhood. But I'm one of 5 votes, and let's see what the neighbors have to say. Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone, was there somebody say yes? Was there anyone here opposed to this petition?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions,
ahead,
a couple of concerns. Only 2 handicap parking spaces for the front building and none for the back building. That's a real concern. What about, are these all, the handicap apartments of this building, are they all going to be on one floor, or is there going to be an elevator to allow access to the second floor? I'm more worried about the handicapped accessibility issues of this project than I am of detrimental use to the neighborhood.
Okay. Well, where's John? John D'Souza, you want to answer those questions?
So for the handicap unit, on the stairs, there will be the chairlifts that will bring the person from one floor up to the other floor.
You're going to have what to do from one floor to the other floor?
We're going to have the chairlifts installed that run along the staircase, where you pull up to the wheelchair and you hop onto your seat and it will ride you up to the next level.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that complies with the AAB requirements, but I'm not 100%
Zoning
sure.
Board of Appeals, I will leave that issue to the building
AAB?
inspector.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm sitting in one of those stair lift chairs and the thing stops in the middle and I'm wheelchair bound, how do I get any help? Because, at least in an elevator, I got a push button that I can call for help. If I'm stuck on that, I guess I got to get one of those help I fall and I can't get up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, those issues, Patrick, are going to be done, I think, addressed if it gets approved by the building inspector, because this is only the use part of it through the
I
the
understand.
land use through the zoning board. But that's something that and I guess they must have
And
dealt with that
personally,
at
I
site
think-
plan review. Anyone else?
Personally, I think there should be one handicapped accessible in each of the two buildings rather than two in one area and none in the back part. But that's my personal opinion. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Is there anyone else that has a comment in favor or opposed to this petition? Bill Kenny, you've already given us your input, so there's nothing else you want to tell us about this project.
No, I think, the thing is it more detrimental to that neighborhood? And I think the detrimental issue might be parking, if they're going to wind up parking on the street because there's not enough made available within the project, that would be an issue. I think that's the main issue, actually.
Mr. Chairman,
I hear somebody.
it's
Coffey?
Jim. There's just on the plan on that page, chart 3.6, the parking where it explains the parking, it just says one handicapped accessible parking space. And I just, if we want to up it to 2, I think we'd have to make that a stipulation because that's not what the plan is calling for here.
Yeah, I think, yes, I agree with that. If you want to designate that there needs to be 2.
And Mr. Chairman, could I just elaborate a little bit on my comment? I don't mean to suggest that every development has got to accommodate all of its parking within its boundaries. There are a lot of legitimate situations in which the new development has, it has some parking, but we know that from time to time they're going to be using the street in the neighborhood as well. So I just wanted to be.
Yes, that is a legitimate observation, Mr. Kenny. It doesn't need to be all within, but you're looking at this lot, you're looking at the 8 units, and you're looking at the parking. I mean, there's 1 parking space per unit, and there's 8 outside, and there's 2 handicap, which gets us to the 16. I mean, we got it. I just want to make sure the board sees it and decides whether or not, yes or no, the special permit should be granted. The special permit, again, is not the same standard as a variance. The special permit says, yes, the board should consider it as being a permitted use if they meet certain criteria, more particularly that it's not something that's more detrimental to the neighborhood than what, if anything, exists there now. And what we're dealing with is we're getting rid of existing single-family dwellings and sheds, and we're increasing the number of units and families that will be living where otherwise they were just 2 families. So now you're going to have 8 families there. So, and the special permit in the commercial mill district on this lot allows for this 8-unit development. It says, yes, by special permit, it can be done. But I mean, those are some of the considerations, the parking, the increase in the density. But that's a call for the board to make.
Also, if I may, the property right now, where it sits, we're at the very end of Grinnell Street. So after the property, the street basically stops because that goes into the Walmart property. So there is nothing further east of us other than Walmart. And there's no access to Walmart from Grinnell Street right there either. So we're basically at the end of the roadway.
You're at the end, you jump into Jefferson Street or Quequechan Street, and Walmart's across the street. Yeah. Know it well. Okay. So members of the board, what do you want to do? Is there a motion that somebody thinks that this particular special permit application with waiver of frontage and is substantially, it is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what was there? Or do we say, no, it's too much and deny it?
Mr. Chairman, based upon the concerns expressed, I don't find that any of those really state that it would be more detrimental to the area. So I will vote that we find, or move that we find that it is not more detrimental to the area.
Okay, and if that's your motion, and you including that it'd be two handicap Or do you just want to leave it the way it is?
I think I'd leave it the way it is because any of the internal spaces could be designated for those units as handicapped if they have special access to them.
But I thought you had mentioned about parking.
Yeah,
your
well, I was
motion-
just going by the difference between what was being said and what was written in the plan.
I got it. But your motion is a vanilla motion. It's not more detrimental to the neighborhood, and your motion is that it should be granted.
Right.
Okay. Do I have a second on Jim's motion? Okay, Dan, no? Okay. Carolyn? John
No.
Frank?
No.
So no second on the motion. Did I get a motion to deny? Have they not met the burden? And does somebody want to make a motion that you find it more detrimental to the neighborhood?
I would make a motion that it's more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Carolyn makes a motion that it's more detrimental to the neighborhood and doesn't meet the standard for the special permit. Do I have a second on Carolyn's motion?
Second.
Second, John Frank. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Carolyn Morissette, yes.
Yes.
John Frank,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
No.
no. Dan Dupere,
Yes.
yes. Chairman Assad, yes. So that special permit is denied. Thank you, Mr. D'Souza.
Unbelievable.
Agenda item number 2. New England Power Company doing business as National Grid, care of Joshua Lee Smith Esquire, 181 Bell Rock Road, Lot W16, 6-month extension request regarding variance granted on June 25th, 2020 to construct a 43 by 66 control house waiving 28 feet of the required 75-foot minimum front yard setback in the in the WR and WWD districts. Is somebody there? I see Mr. Smith. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. First, can we do a sound check? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So for the record, my name is Joshua Lee Smith. I am outside counsel for National Grid. Here tonight, as the chair had mentioned, seeking an extension of a previously granted variance. We came before this board about a year ago, and in June of 2021, requesting a variance in connection with what's called a control building, which is a component, technically it's a piece of equipment as part of an electric substation. This is part of a larger rebuild of this existing 115 kV substation located off of Bell Rock Road. So we came before the board unanimously granted the variance. It was a dimensional variance with respect to front yard setback. What has happened since then there was somewhat of a delay with respect to the ISO New England, which is one of the energy planning organizations that reviews various projects in this sector. There was a pause with respect to their evaluation in terms of the need for this project. They were looking at the future load capacity for this area, this region. So they took some time, which ultimately resulted in a delay with respect to our construction planning and scheduling. And ultimately, ISO New England did reconfirm that the project is in fact needed based on their review and analysis of the future load within the area. Again, so that ultimately caused a delay with respect to the commencement of the work at this site. What my client is looking to do is commence work sometime in September of this year. So the project still is absolutely happening, but it will be slightly delayed. The variance, as I said, was granted in June of 2021. It has a 1-year
2020.
lapse period. I'm sorry, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. 2020 has a 1-year lapse period, so it will expire if our rights under that variance are not exercised by June of this year. So we are seeking a 6-month extension. As I mentioned, we fully plan on exercising the permit before the end of this year. We anticipate commencing work in around the fall, September timeframe. So that is what we are seeking this evening from the board.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Members of the board, any questions for Mr. Lee Smith? Can I get a motion to grant the 6-month extension?
I'll make a
Motion to
motion.
deny. Dan Dupere, motion to grant 6-month extension. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, John Frank. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Dan Dupere, yes. John Frank, yes.
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. Attorney Smith, your petition's been granted. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay, agenda item number 3. 605 Globe Street LLC. 605 Globe Street and 26 Kilburn Street, Lot G, 25, 9, and 36. This is a special permit request pursuant to section 86-425 to allow addition to existing non-conforming structure to expand the existing auto repair garage in the A2 district, number 605, lot size 3,327 plus or minus square feet, and number 26, lot size 4,178 plus or minus square feet.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Dan Aguirre from SciTech CEC here this evening on behalf of 605 Globe Street LLC. As you read into the record, Mr. Chairman, this is a request to construct an addition to the existing auto sales, auto repair facility located at 605 Globe Street. This business has been in operation for many, many years. Used to be combined with the 2-family dwelling that you see to the east of it on the plan that you have. They had that parcel subdivided a number of years ago and then purchased the adjacent home at 26 Kilburn Street, which is parcel G25-9. They demolished that home and it's currently used as a paved area. And because of the removal of the home, technically these two parcels have merged because G2536 is only 3,300 square feet. The applicant wants to construct an addition to that existing structure, as you see, proposed addition, heading along the southerly side of the building. And because the existing structure does not meet the front yard setback, as we project that line southerly, the proposed addition will not as well. This type of an addition where we're becoming no more non-conforming than the existing structure is allowed under section 86-425, as the chairman had stated. Building setback to the southerly boundary is proposed to be 29 feet and 20 feet is required. And we are not getting closer to any other perimeter property line. This will, I am sure, have to go through the site plan review process, and we understand that completely. So it's a rather straightforward application allowing the expansion of the existing non-conforming structure.
Dan, is this proposed addition adequate, or we're going to see them in 2 years?
No, it's actually a couple of feet bigger, and I explained the same thing to them. You'll see at the street line an existing utility pole, and it would have served zero purpose to go any larger in that southerly direction. Would have required the replacement or relocation of that utility pole, and then it would have also impeded vehicular access. You see the existing driveway off of Kilburn Street. So this is all that they needed and then some, and they will need no further addition.
Members of the board, any questions? Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Okay, under the standard of 86-425, the zoning board may grant a special permit only if it determines that such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. So if you think that Mr. Aguirre and his client have met the burden, then we should get a motion to grant. If you think they haven't, then we should deny the petition.
I'll make the motion to grant that it is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Okay, John Frank, motion to grant that it is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Okay, do I have a second on John Frank's motion?
I'll
Second.
second.
Sounded like Jim Corkins. Was that second Jim Corkins?
It was two of us. I was one
Okay,
of
yeah,
them.
I heard you. So John Frank, Jim Corkins, any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. John Frank,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. So that special permit is granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Agenda item number 4. RHR Holdings LLC, 1321, 1327 Globe Street, Lot F 2317. This is a special permit pursuant to 86-423B to allow the subdivision of existing 8,053 plus or minus square feet parcel into 2 lots, leaving an existing 3-family dwelling on each lot in the R4 district. I think this is Attorney Levin. I could be wrong.
No, it's me again, Mr. Chairman.
It's you.
Dan Aguirre.
Okay.
Good evening again. For the record, Dan Aguirre on behalf of RHR Holdings LLC, Richard Matus, managing member. This is a rather, again, straightforward application in compliance with 86-423B, where we have 2 multifamily dwellings in existence prior to 1954. That does allow the separation of the 2 parcels by special permit. What we've done is we've made sure that we've created enough building setback to each building so that each home would have access around the building, and that the home in the rear would have sufficient access out to Globe Street as well. This parcel now is entirely lawn, being utilized for yard area, and we would propose to keep that situation the way that it is. There is currently no off-street parking, and there is none being proposed at this time. There is no expansion of the 2 structures exposed. This would simply be a subdivision of the 2 parcels. The utilities have already been separated, and an affidavit will be filed prior to the conveyance of either of the properties when that takes place. And any provision with regards to fencing, as we normally incorporate to some of these decisions, would be acceptable as well. If you have any specific questions that I can answer, I would be more than glad to do so.
So the utilities have already been separated.
That's correct.
Is a sale pending, or can you file if the board, assuming the board grants it, then you can file the affidavit at the same time as you file the decision.
That's correct.
So there currently is no off-street parking. We're just shifting the property lines, putting the two buildings on 2 separate lots.
That's correct. Mr. Chairman, I think you understand sometimes that we do this, it's strictly due to financing. And when we go in for a residential rate or a commercial rate, there is a difference between the number of units on a parcel. So this does afford the owner, even if he keeps ownership of the 2 buildings, better lending rates when refinancing either of the structures.
No, well, I understand that. I don't really think that raises to the level of the zoning issue. I think under the zoning bylaw, it says we may grant a special permit for the division of it. And I think that's where the better argument is rather than anything personal.
Certainly.
So I think I asked if anyone was in favor, if anyone was opposed. If not, members of the board, motion to grant, motion to deny.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, of course you can, Bill. What would you like to say?
Fred Almeida, I'm in a butter to this property at 1321, 1327. These 2 large 3 tenement structures, not owner occupied. And at times we operate the funeral home next door. And there's a lot of parking by tenants and visitors. Can be up to anywhere from 6 to 12 cars. That's the only inconvenience I see, other than if you grant your proposed subdivision, will there be any addition to the structures, as Mr. Hagia said? No to.
But Mr.
that's
Aggie, I
my
answered
only
that.
concern.
But I'll apologize to you, Mr. Almeida, because yes, in fact, you wrote a letter and I have it written down, but I didn't pick it up, but I'm glad you're here in person. So that was the tenor of what your letter, the objection to the board was. Mr. Aguirre, can you address that, please, to Mr. Almeida?
I can, Mr. Chairman. As stated previously, there is no proposed addition to either of these structures. This is simply just a subdivision of the parcels as well. And I know Mr. Almeida very well. He's run a great operation and a great business there for many, many years. This is, again, an existing condition where we're just creating a lot line. The use of the property will not change. I do understand Mr. Almeida's concerns regarding people parking on the street, which they are allowed to do. In fact, the frontage along these two homes is often utilized by funeral processions and vehicles lining up, which I can understand. And if the spaces are open, that's great. Mr. Almeida does also own an adjacent property, F2318, that he does utilize for parking as well. I've been to a number of funerals there. I've had family members buried there as well. Again, within a few hours in the morning and a couple of hours during wakes at night, I've never seen an issue with regards to off-street parking there. And Mr. Matus, who is the manager of RHR Holdings, when I had this discussion with him, he's never had a tenant complain to him with regards for the need of off-street parking.
Was that an adequate response, Mr. Almeida?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else before I ask the board? Anyone in favor, anyone opposed? Is there someone that I missed that wanted to comment on this petition? Okay. Well, members of the, let's see. Motion to grant, motion to deny. What do you want to do, members of the board? Condition being, if you grant, that the affidavit has to be recorded within a year of the grant or before any property is sold.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, can we request 2 years for that special permit?
Yes. I don't know who asked the question, but the answer to
I
that
did,
is
Dan Aguirre, sorry.
yeah. Well, I thought with Jim Corkins' last standing order, the special permits for things were going to be.
We're all, yeah, right, but you just said 1 year, recorded within 1 year, so I wanted to.
Well, no, well, within, I'd like it record, if it's done, let's get it recorded.
Yep.
But it's certainly recorded before there's a conveyance, because I really don't want Mr. Matus or anybody else dealing with the utilities aren't separated.
Understood.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion to grant.
John Frank, motion to grant. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. John Frank, yes. Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Carol Morissette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. That petition is granted with those conditions, with that condition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Agenda item number 5. Joseph Yared, estate of Fernandez Yared, 703 Brayton Avenue and 128 Beard Street, lot F7 1327. Variance request to subdivide the existing parcels, reconfigure the existing dividing line, leaving an existing commercial building on lot 1 with a proposed lot size of 21,887 plus or minus square feet, while constructing a new single-family dwelling on lot 2 facing Beard Street, proposed lot size 5,040 plus or minus square feet, waiving requirements in the R4 district.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman and board members. Dan Aguirre from SciTech CEC here this evening on behalf of the estate of Joseph Yared regarding these two properties at 703 Brayton Avenue and 128 Baird Street. Currently on the property, actually multiple properties, being F7 Lot 13 and F7 Lot 27, there is a rather large existing auto repair facility at 703 Brayton Avenue with frontage of 100 feet along Brayton Avenue and 57 feet along Aberdeen Street. Then there was an additional parcel to the rear, F727, that was acquired at another time, that was pre-existing non-conforming with 41 feet plus or minus feet of frontage. What we're proposing to do at this point, and this is a variance, to allow us to change what was that initial lot line and reconfigure the lot as such to provide it with a total of 83 feet of frontage along Baird Street, meeting or exceeding actually the frontage requirement for the R4 district, and allowing an increase in that original lot area of 4,800 square feet to get it up over 5,000 square feet as shown to being 5,040 square feet. You'll see we've shown a building envelope that has a proposed front yard setback of 15 feet in conformance with the bylaw, side yard setbacks of 10 feet in conformance with the bylaw, and a rear yard setback of 15 feet. Technically, excuse me, Mr. Chair?
Need a waiver of rear yard setback.
Correct, of 5 feet. And an area reduction of 960 square feet because we would be shy of the 6,000 square feet. And the reasoning for that is that the existing paved storage area and parking area, you'll see, runs along the rear property boundary of F7-30, being 110 Baird Street. And what we did, we would have liked to have just projected that line across, but that would have left us less than the 5,000. So we did have to bump that line back approximately 4 feet to get up over 5,000 square feet, which we thought was a more reasonable area to come before the Zoning Board of Appeals. The rear area of F7-27 is currently used as part of that paved storage area as well. So it's kind of a land swap, and it would provide for a better building shaped lot for parcel 2 along Baird Street. So this would be a reconfiguration of what those lines used to be. There is a portion of this property that is in land court, and then a portion of it that is just regular registered land as well.
The 21,887 square foot lot, you've got two parcel 2s. Is that parcel 1?
Oh, sorry, I apologize. Yes, one of them would be parcel 1.
So
Parcel 1 would be the existing structure remaining.
So that way we can refer to parcel 2 as the lot
Correct.
that's going to be the single family, and parcel 1 is going to be the remaining. Is that
That's correct. Yep. So you'll see we're taking away a small amount of area from F7-13. You see the difference, and adding that to what was F7-27. So a land swap, but parcel 2 would be receiving more land area back to get it bumped up over 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
So we would be seeking a variance for the rear yard setback of 5 feet and the area of 960 square feet.
And those are the only two variances from the ordinance that you need on this.
That is correct, because there will only be a single family home being constructed. If it was a 2-family home, we would need 8,000 square feet.
All right. Is there any members of the board, any questions for Mr. Aguirre on this particular project? It's an R4 2-family district. You've got this pre-existing non-conforming use. We're taking some of the land and putting it into I guess part of it is you got an existing 1-family, which is a permitted use, and then you're going to have this new permitted use that's in conformity with the zoning bylaw, and you've got the other part that's pre-existing non-conforming.
That's correct.
No questions from the board right now. Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Okay. Brittany, I don't remember seeing anything on agenda item number 5, anything, any written correspondence.
No, we haven't gotten any.
I don't want to miss it like Mr. Almeida's that time. Okay. All right, members of the board, what do you want to do? Has they met the burden with shape, topography, soil condition? Was there a sufficient hardship? And it is in the public good to grant the variance on this particular project? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think
Right.
by doing this, it will set the lines up a little bit better on that street as far as everything looks. And it looks like that's the way the fence has already been in existence for a long time on that property. Putting a single family home there is the smart thing to do, I think, instead of possibly this being divided up into something else down the road. So with that, I'll make the motion to grant.
Right, John Frank, motion to grant waiver of the area and the rear yard are the only two variances that are required, okay? Do we have a second on John's motion?
I'll second it.
Second, Jim Corkins. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. John Frank, yes?
Yes.
Corkins, yes?
Yes.
Dan Dupere?
Yes.
Yes. Carolyn Morissette?
Yes.
Yes. Chairman Assad, yes. That petition is granted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6, Easy Auto Repair LLC, Nuno Sudo, 681 Brayton Avenue, F712. Special permit request pursuant to section 86-424 to expand the existing use of auto repair to include auto sales in the R4 district. Lot size 5,761 plus or minus square feet.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Dan Aguirre here this evening on behalf of the applicant, Easy Auto, who is represented by Mr. Nuno De Soto. The property owner is actually Anton Vargas, and there is an agreement between the two parties to allow Mr. De Soto to operate out of the facility if the special permit is granted. This is an existing auto repair facility. It's actually adjacent to the previous application that we had just dealt with. You see directly to the east, 703 Brayton Avenue that we just dealt with the frontage out to Baird Street. So the application before you is written with regards to section 86-424 that will allow the extension of the existing auto repair use to allow the sale of a few automobiles. The owner understands that he has to go through the licensing process to determine the number of vehicles that he could have on the site for repair and for sales. What we did do was put together a little bit of a site plan that illustrates how vehicles could be laid out on the property, still leaving a 22-foot access aisle, which is required by zoning to access the existing repair facility in the rear of the property. Again, the board would have to make the determination that the auto sales use is not significantly more detrimental than the existing repair use. I would offer that the sale of vehicles actually is a cleaner operation and would actually allow for better kept vehicles to be parked on the site rather than vehicles that are just sitting to be repaired. So with that, we would ask that the board grant the special permit request.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you acknowledge that you need other permits and other board activity and not just say it's all the zoning board granted it so we can start selling cars tomorrow. You can't.
No, that's more than understood, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I just want to be clear. Okay. Is there anyone out there in favor of this petition? Is there anyone there opposed to this petition? Brittany, I don't think we got any correspondence on this particular project, did we?
Nothing for this one.
Okay. Members of the board, any questions for Mr. Aguirre on this proposed use? So under 86-424, the Board of Appeals may grant a special permit to change or extend a non-conforming use in accordance with this section only if it determines that such change or extension shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood. So what do you want to do, members of the board? Do you think that this expansion is not going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood?
Mr. Chairman, I find that it will not be more substantially detrimental to the area in lieu of granting of the special permit.
Okay. That's fine. Do we have a second on Jim's motion?
Second.
Heard somebody. John Frank, second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Jim Corkins, yes.
Yes.
John Frank,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. That special permit is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 7. Benjamin and Nathan Building LLC, 162 to 180 Pleasant Street, Lot N31. This is a special permit request pursuant to Section 86-443 to allow the reduction of the required parking rate in the BL and Arts Overlay districts to a rate of 1 parking space per residential unit, leaving existing office space and required parking in accordance with bylaw. Lot size 18,369 plus or minus square feet.
Good evening again. For the record, Mr. Chairman and board members, Dan Aguirre from SciTech CEC. And I am also here this evening with the manager of the Benjamin and Nathan Building LLC, Tony Cadero, who is here if you have any questions for him as well. You all know this property. It sits directly across the street from Mr. Cadero's insurance office at the corner of Troy and Pleasant Street. It's a recently renovated 4-story brick building that has been turned into a beautiful apartment building with a total of 20 apartment units and existing office space retained along the first floor. I think absolutely perfectly in line and what the ordinance has requested and asked people to do in this downtown neighborhood area. So what we've done is construction is complete. We've constructed new parking lots, as you see. So the plan before you, there's nothing to be changed. That's what sits on the ground currently, the striping, the dumpster, everything, you name it. That's what's out there on the site. What we have found is that the need for additional off-street parking that we've had secured for a number of years for the purpose of these apartment dwellings to park at a rate of 2 spaces per unit are going underutilized. In fact, there are a number of days and most days where the on-street parking is not full as well. So what we've done is we've come back to you similar to what we had done with the recent permitting over at 295 Bedford Street, a larger apartment building. I believe it was up to 72 units at a rate of 1 space per residential unit. And so what we've done is to allow us to free up some off-street parking for future endeavors, we've come before you seeking this special permit to allow parking to be reduced, or the required parking, at the rate proposed, which would be 1 space per residential unit and 8 spaces for the office spaces that are on the first floor of the building. We have supplied 28 spaces, and we are required at the rate of 1-to-1 to have that number of spaces. In discussions with Mr. Kenny, and we've had these discussions for a number of years about parking requirements, and it's not only Mr. Kenny and I, even with the board, that these discussions are being had all over the state and the country with regards to the required parking for these types of uses, these mixed uses with apartments and office or retail spaces. I did give Mr. Kenny some documentation regarding an executive summary that was done by a study of the Metropolitan Area Planning Council for the state of Massachusetts in the Boston area. And one of their caveats, it's a fairly lengthy document, but very informational. They did a big study about parking and parking specifically to apartments. I'll read just a quick section of it. The amount of parking provided varied widely, ranging from 0.25 to 2.0 spaces per unit. The average was exactly 1.0 parking spaces per unit, yet it appeared that residents didn't need that much parking either. So we've come back to you seeking this special permit under 86-445, where you do have the ability to allow this reduction in parking. And moreover, Mr. Kenny and I spoke today, just as recently as this past year, the governor has instituted, I'm sure many of you are aware, of a number of changes to 40A and 40R with regards to development. And one specific portion of that, believe it or not, the city of Fall River was in the forefront of this, where they are requesting and proposing to other towns and municipalities that this specific reduction be allowed by special permit in all of these other municipalities. Now, Fall River already allows it under 86-445. So the planners of the past that have put that into the zoning bylaw should be proud that they were a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to the Metro Boston area and the rest of the state. So with that, Mr. Chairman and board members, if you have any questions with regards to the operation or how things have been going out there, I'd be more than glad to answer those questions.
As it exists right now, it complies, it's in conformity. And
Well-
you're saying, at least if I heard you correctly, it's just being underutilized. And for future development purposes, he's looking for a reduction. Is that correct?
A little bit different than that, Mr. Chair. So right now, it complies because we have provided 28 on-site parking spaces. And under the HUD and special permit bylaws in the city, we can use off-street parking and parking reserved in the garage down the street and other areas towards our parking. So
No,
what we want to do is,
I
we
got
don't
that.
want
My only question is why the reduction if there's nothing happening that he needs it for right now?
because technically for zoning, we can't move on other projects if we can't free up some of those spaces.
There's something
So we're
pending
basically
before-
trying to free up parking off-site from this. Nothing on this site will change. The 28 spaces that are on this site will be designated for this building only.
So there's another but it's not before the board this evening. There's not
No.
another project, any of the other projects.
Nope, actually, there will be next month. So basically, the the on-street and the off-site parking that have been secured are not being used at all for this property.
No, I got it. I understand. I'm just asking what's prompting you to come tonight before there's something real before that. And again, Mr. Cordero can certainly answer this. I understand it as a preemptive measure on his part. There's some other project, maybe he doesn't want to disclose it. But if there's nothing going on now at this moment, the reduction, I understand it may open up or allow him to use some of those underutilized spaces for another project, but it's not one of the other items we're going to deal with this evening. Is that correct?
That is correct, but there are a couple of other housing developments in the area that we will be back again next month. We've already filed one for the garment workers building, for instance. And so it's basically a reshaping and a reallotment of spaces. And where right now you're just looking specifically at this one and spaces that we
No, I got it.
reserved.
I understand, but I'm saying there's nothing happening right now. Got it. So at some point I'll hear from Mr. Kenny because obviously you've had lots of discussions with him. So I want to hear what he has to say from the planning point of view. But let me see if the board members have any questions or would like some, unless they want information from Mr. Kenny right now. Bill, why don't you give us the benefit of your discussions with either Mr. Cordero or with Dan Aguirre on this particular project?
Sure. First, I think what they're doing here is almost is very certainly good planning on their part. They're looking ahead to other developments that might happen that they have an interest in, and as Dan uses the expression, freeing up some spots. I think that's very proactive and helpful. And speaking of that legislation and the encouragement that we're hearing from the state level, Dan referred to Fall River being ahead of the curve on this, where we already have a procedure for a special permit to deal with some of these parking requirements. That's actually part of the new legislation that Mr. Calkins was hoping I would report on tonight. And I'm sorry I haven't been able to prepare that, but I will.
I
But-
didn't miss it, but the city hasn't adopted the enabling legislation, has it?
Nothing has happened at this point, but what we have in this particular case, we already have the legislation. You already have the flexibility to deal with this particular issue. And it's a good thing too, because parking requirements embedded into a code can run the risk of being unnecessarily rigid. And parking is a really site-specific thing. And even within a zone, if you establish a parking standard, you run the risk that it's going to be non-helpful within certain parts of that zone. And I think particularly, having said all that, they're doing good planning. We have to be careful with rigid application of parking standards because they don't match reality. The fact of the matter is this building, and I think there's another one on the agenda, maybe two more on the agenda tonight where parking is an issue. Two things. First of all, if you want to talk about parking in the downtown core, the real issue is not a lack of parking, it's the proper management of parking. And frankly, what Dan and Mr. Cordero are doing here is good management, looking ahead for parking. And the other thing is, we've got to do everything we can, in my opinion, to develop opportunities for market rate housing and some related commercial development right here in our historic downtown core. And the planning department, as we speak, is working on a request for some planning grants to look at underutilized properties right in this district to see if we can do something to help market this area to attract market rate housing, because we're never going to have a vital downtown retail core again unless we have some folks who live downtown who want to be in a walkable neighborhood and who have some disposable income to
Still lives in
support.
the house I grew up in on Corwin Street. So I grew up on family on Corwin Street.
I don't know what that was, but I wish it would stop. If we don't have anybody downtown with disposable income to support local retail, it's not going to happen. People are not going to come in from the suburbs necessarily. In some cases they will, but the real future for downtown retail is folks that live downtown that have disposable income. And we're going to run into this in other situations where we're going to have to deal with parking in a reasonable way, recognizing that it's site specific, that we want to be generous in requests for this sort of waiver, so to speak, so that we can get some people living down here to support the core. So I support this proposal. I think it's eminently reasonable, and it's really a proactive planning on their part.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bill,
So
what's the
members of the
current-
board, you've got, John?
What's the current parking rate? Is it 1.5 or 1.7?
In this district,
Yes.
Dan, what do you say?
It would be two. All
I thought it
residential districts, it would all be 2 spaces per unit.
The arts overlay district is really the 445 that gives you the opportunity to vary from that. And by the way, the standards in there are that you can reduce it if it's not inconsistent with public health and safety, or if it promotes a public benefit. And I think they pass both of those standards, particularly the public benefit aspect, because they're looking at helping us build the density of occupation of the downtown core.
Okay, so that's the planner's view of what should be happening from a development standpoint. Under 86-445, we have the authority. Those were some of the things that we can think about. If it's the representation is the current parking that's being assigned to this building is being underutilized. We have a little view of the future that they're probably going to be used for other projects that Mr. Cordero is doing. So if we want to reduce it, we have the authority to do it. If we don't want to do it, we can keep it the way it is and make him come back again when he has a more firm proposal. So can I get a motion to exercise our authority under 86-445 and finding that the reduction or modification is not inconsistent with public health and safety, or that the reduction and modification promotes a public benefit?
Mr. Chairman, Having had an office in that building quite a few years ago, I'm well aware of the parking requirements in the area, and I do not see any problem for safety or health for the area, and move that we grant the permit.
So you find it's not inconsistent with public health and safety, so you motion to grant?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Do we have a second from Jim Corkins' motion?
I'll second. Dan?
Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
John Frank,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette.
No.
No. Chairman Assad, yes. Okay. So
Thank you.
that special permit is granted. The reduction, the vote 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 8. Dynamic Duo LLC, 72 Everett Street, Lot J 1823. Special permit request to section 86-428 to reestablish the abandoned auto sales use for the existing auto repair shop in the A2 district, lot size 4,900. Let's see who's got this one.
Good evening again. I do, Mr. Chairman. It was a busy month.
God bless you.
On behalf of Dynamic Duo LLC regarding the real estate at 72 Everett Street, we are pursuing a special permit pursuant to 86-428. This property at 72 Everett Street was previously the home of an auto sales use and auto repair use, both of them. The owner of the property allowed the auto sales use to expire through his licensing. The auto repair facility portion of it still has until the end of June to reapply. The owner has not reapplied because he's waiting to deal with both licensing at the same time. So currently, there is still valid pre-existing non-conforming auto repair use at the property, and we are asking that this board grant a special permit to reestablish the previously existing auto sales use. It's a rather straightforward use. It's a commercial garage if you've ever driven by it, very small, with a small parking area out in front. We've shown the ability to park six vehicles, whether for repair or for sales. But again, the licensing department will determine the number of vehicles allowed on site for both of those purposes. I would state that the proposed reestablishment of the auto sales use, again, would be not substantially detrimental than the existing auto repair use. And it's similar to the Brayton Avenue petition. The auto sales use actually creates a cleaner environment than the existing repair use. So watering that down a little bit with some vehicles that are complete and for sale would help what sits in that parking facility. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them.
I'll state it for the record. Who's out there? That the board, if we grant the reestablishment, it doesn't reestablish whatever the license was. That
is correct.
Permitting.
Both licenses will have to be renewed.
No,
because
I
the
got
auto
that, but if we
repair use-
reestablish it, if we reestablish under 86-428, it doesn't mean that it reestablishes what was there. It just says that the use that was
Correct.
abandoned will be reinstated. Okay.
That's correct. All licensing similar to Brayton Avenue will have to be instituted with the licensing board.
Mr. Agia, I know that you understand that. I am more concerned about people listening out there or your clients that are going to say, listen, the board granted us the authority and I've got a new 27 Mercedes out there for sale tomorrow. It's not going to work.
No, they are aware and they have the applications sitting waiting so that they can get on the next month's agenda.
Thank you. All right. So let me see. Is there anyone in favor of this petition? Is there anyone opposed to this petition?
There is a letter on file from the city clerk.
Okay, Brittany, that was the one that I didn't have. So
Right.
can you Can you tell me or tell the board what that letter? I think everybody had it in their package but me.
If it missed you, it might have missed everybody, but it is on file from City Clerk's office stating regarding number 8 on your agenda, Dynamic Duo LLC requesting the special permit. According to our records on file in this office, the auto repair shop license issued to Humberto Medeiros in 2018 expired on April 29, 2020. Further, this office was notified that the business closed in August of 2019 when the owner moved to Florida. As such, in accordance to the provisions, a license to operate an auto repair shop must be obtained from the city clerk's office, city council. Should the request for the special permit be granted by your honorable board, I respectfully request that the license application packet be issued to petitioner. Thanks for your consideration.
So that, I think all the board members had that in their package. I did not, but thank you for reading it for me, Brittany. So that's what we've got before us. Bill Kenny, do you have any input on this?
No, thank you. No, isn't it really just a matter of the 2-year issue?
No, it is, but I just, whether or not you had some overall planning discussion that it's not good or it is good but procedurally, and our ordinance provides for the board to act on it, but I want to make sure if there's any input that we need to know about for future development of this area, we don't want to hamper it.
I have nothing particular on that score. No.
Thank you, sir. Okay, members of the board, what do you want to do? We can certainly reestablish it. We have the authority under 86-428B to do it, or we can say, no, don't do it.
I just have a quick question. There has to be an easement or something like that that's currently in existence through 62. Is that what that is? 62 Everett?
I know the properties are owned similarly, so I am assuming that there may be some type of easement for them to utilize access through 62.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because there is no access to that garage from.
Right, other than through 62. You are correct.
All right. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it expired last month, so they need to get it re-up it again if they're going to do this. So with that, I'll make the motion to grant.
Okay, motion to grant from John Frank. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dan Dupere, second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. John Frank,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Carol Amarasette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. Okay, that petition is granted. Thank you. MKM Management LLC, number 9 on our agenda, 18 to 33rd Street, lots N6, 21, 36. Special permit request pursuant to section 86-445 to allow the reduction of the required parking rate in the BL and AOD Arts Overlay District to a rate of 1 parking space per residential unit, leaving existing office spaces and required parking in accordance with bylaw. So, Dan, I'm going to ask you that. I think you've got another one on Tony. He's got 60
Yes.
Hartwell Street, which is similar. Do you want me to take those
no.
out of?
Well, 60 Hartwell is entirely new construction.
Okay. So they're not, so you don't want to, all right, so we'll just do them in order. I thought if it was
That's
the
fine.
same issue, instead of doing it all this, okay?
Nope, totally separate. Again, for the record, Dan Aguirre on behalf of MKM Management LLC. Anthony Cadero, the manager, was here this evening. Almost identical to the Pleasant Street petition that we just discussed. This is what was known as the Trolley Building. It's another 4-story brick building directly across the street from the United States Post Office. You all know it more likely that where Giorgio's Steakhouse used to be on the very top floor. Similarly to Pleasant Street, Mr. Cadero has renovated this structure into 18 apartment units with office use. It's actually a school on a private school on the first floor. And you'll see that this is comprised of 2 separate parcels, as the chairman read into the record, 21 and 36. Parcel 36 is just a parking area that runs off of Bedford Street, wraps along the back of all of these buildings, and then back out through what used to be Pocasset Street, back out to 3rd Street. So you'll see there's some odd lot lines in there and how parking is shared and things of that nature. So as I didn't want to bring into the fold in the last petition, filed this month, and you'll see it on next month's agenda, Mr. Cordero is proposing the renovation, the long overdue renovation of the Garment Workers Building, which is directly south of this property, directly across the street from City Hall, basically north of where the bells are installed. So this is one of the reasons that we are asking for this modification of parking allotment, because what you'll see on this plan is that we are proposing to allot and have approved through zoning 28 off-street parking spaces here as well. We have 18 apartment units and then 10 employees on the first floor unit for a total of 28. Those 28 spaces would be provided on site, again, freeing up a few parking spaces that were being utilized on the southerly parcel at N623, and then also in a few of the area parking garages and parking lots. So this would allow or advance the development of that southerly building that you'll all see next month. And that petition before you is a special permit for the conversion into the apartments and the same parking ratios as well. So almost identical, but we can let a little bit of the cat out of the bag on this one and hang it and wrap it in with another great project going on in that location of 3rd Street. Again, the same parking designations for 1 per residential unit and 1 per employee for the office/school use on the first floor. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Mr. Kenny, I'm assuming that your comments are the same as they were for the previous one?
You're partly right. I'd like to just say ditto, but also 2 things that I don't think were mentioned. First, one of the things we talk about in terms of parking demand and parking management is the timing of the use. And you're going to think, gee, downtown, a lot of people there on business, office workers and so forth, city hall workers during the day, they disappear when the folks that live in this house come home to park. So you have to put that into the calculus. There's a different time when the demand is there for the different uses. And the other thing that there really wasn't mentioned is demographically, the folks that are going to tend to live in the downtown area are going to be not your, mom and dad and 10 kids. They're going to be a lot of single people. They're going to be a lot of owners with just one automobile. So those are also factors that, again, factor into this whole concept that you can't just look at the parking standards that are in the ordinances and think that they're etched in stone and that it's God's will that's come down from above. A lot of these things demand some site-by-site review. And I think this is one of this project and the one that is coming at the ILGWU building are things that we really want to encourage downtown, and they deserve the approval on their parking requirements. That tonight, for the one that's before the board, I recommend that you approve it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members of the board, you've heard the request. You see what's happening. Mr. Cordero has this larger plan where he needs some additional space for maybe some future development. The 28 1-for-1 ratio provides 1 off-street parking space for every unit and employee in this particular project. So if we want to grant it, we can grant the special permit. If we say no, then it's no. So.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant. There's adequate parking in that area. The lot behind there is a rental lot. I'm very familiar with all the space down there. There's plenty of parking for people to get if they need it. So with that, I'll make the motion.
Frank, motion to grant. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dupere, second. Dan Dupere, any discussion on the motion? Okay, John Frank,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette,
No.
no. Chairman Assad, yes. Okay. 4-1. That passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 10, Joseph and Rita De Oliveira, 469 Mount Hope Avenue, Lot A 1134. Variance request to allow the subdivision of existing 18,266 plus or minus square foot parcel into 3 lots, leaving an existing multifamily on Lot 2. Proposed lot size 6,509 plus or minus square feet, while constructing a new single family on each of the new lots, waiving requirements in the R8 district.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Dan Aguirre from SciTech CEC on behalf of Joseph and Rita De Oliveira regarding the real estate at 469 Mount Hope Avenue. You will see in the petition that we had submitted where we lay out the history of what has transpired on this property. The De Oliveira's purchased the property back in 2010 with what they understood at the time to be 3 separate parcels, as they are described separately in the deed itself. Although this is a 3-family structure, this is a single family district. So they came to me with the potential or the thoughts of going through the site plan review process so that they could construct 2 single family homes on either side. And I had to be the bearer of bad news once again and tell them that these lots have merged due to zoning because this is an 8,000 square foot district. And the lot in the middle did not meet the 8,000 square feet. And the zoning regulations don't differentiate between what lot gets merged with what to make it close to being conforming. So this all gets merged into one. So the petition before you this evening is to subdivide this parcel back into the 3 lots with just one little caveat. We have added a little rat tail onto lot number 3, again, to get it up over the 5,000 square foot area. It was previously smaller than that indeed. So when you go out to this property and you're standing looking south towards the home, you will see that there is, on what we're showing as lot number 1, which was part of 81134, it sits approximately 10 to 20 feet at the very easterly portion of this site in elevation difference from the existing 3-family dwelling. It's obvious that this area is not utilized as yard for this home because it wasn't intended to be part of this home when it was created. Then when we terrace coming down Mount Hope, heading westerly, you all have traveled Mount Hope, a fairly steep street, we get to the 3-family home, which sits on a plateaued area, and then continuing with topographic elevation relief down to Bailey Street, a few more feet. So the topography of this shape of this parcel and some of the soil conditions with regards to some ledge and some boulders that you see on that easterly parcel really dictates that those areas are underutilized and that the allowance for them to be utilized as they previously were would be of no detriment to anyone in the neighborhood. In fact, the proposal before you would also add, you'll see an proposed parking area to the rear of the 3-family coming off of the existing driveway to help get some vehicles off the street as well. Although there is not a big parking issue on Mount Hope Avenue, the only issue that comes into play is the steepness of the street and creates sometimes a situation that's not advantageous for parking. So we would be able to get some people off of Mount Hope and allow them to park in the back of the existing 3-family dwelling. Other than that, the proposed structures would meet the building setbacks of a 20-foot front yard, a 15-foot side yard, and a 20-foot rear yard. So as far as dealing with any of the abutting parcels, no one would have anything constructed closer to them than what the bylaw would allow by right. So we are seeking variances for frontage and area on this parcel. And the existing non-conforming use, which is the three-family, would remain as well. That is all, Mr. Chairman. If you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them.
I have a question, Dan. Right now, it's a conforming lot, correct?
That is correct, but it's a conforming lot that topographically is not singular, not uniform, and not in accordance with how they were created initially. They were created so that you could have a terraced, staggered construction and occupation similar to all of the other homes that are on Mount Hope Avenue. But you are correct. This is currently a conforming lot. Actually, it greatly exceeds the conforming lot standards, where this is 18,000 square feet and 159 feet of frontage, where only 8,000 square feet is required. So it's more than 10,000 or 10,000 square feet larger, and it exceeds the required frontage by almost another 80 feet.
I mean, my concern though is lot 3 is going to be 3,000, almost 3,000 square feet less than what's required for this district. 8,000 is required.
That you are correct, and the reasoning for that is it would do no good to add additional area to it just for the sake of adding area to it, because it does sit at a separate elevation from the three-family and from the next lot heading west as well, lot number 1. If you go out there, you will see the topography as you're facing the house again from the far left starts up very high behind that existing dwelling at 143, drops down to the existing driveway, goes flat across to the three-family, and then drops down again heading towards Bailey Street.
Thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, the three-family, when you look at the assessors card, was built around 1923, 4 years before the city adopted zoning.
That's correct.
And you've got these terraced lots, and they are, I mean, the topography, as you identify, really disjoints them from the three-family dwelling. It's not like a continuation of the yard.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. So if this was a flat lot and everything was currently being utilized for yard area with a pool to the left, a garage to the right, a garden in the back, and being utilized as one property, we would not have the argument that we're proposing this evening.
No, it's kind of like a good textbook about 40A, Section 6 and merger and what we've got in the board's, the board's use of its power to maybe think about variances as we have shape, topography, soil, not necessarily soil conditions on this, but in a possible hardship. But there are other board members that may want to have some input on this. Is there anyone, let me ask if there's anyone out there in favor of this petition? Any abutters, anybody in the area, any comments? Anyone opposed to this petition? I don't remember seeing any letters of opposition. Bill Kenny, do you have any comments on this proposal?
I believe that the topographic argument wins the day. I think that establishes the hardship that Dan has described.
Okay, thank you. Members of the board, what do you want to do? Motion to grant, motion to deny? Have they met the burden with either shape, topography, hardship to grant a variance on this particular project? If you think we have, then we should get a motion to grant. If you think they haven't, then we should get a motion to deny.
I'll make a motion to grant.
John Frank, motion to grant. Dan, I just want to ask one question to Dan. I don't think that there was any outbuildings on any of these, so utilities, I don't have to deal with separate utilities at all on that.
No, these two new lots and actually the three-family will all need to go through site plan review. The three-family for the parking.
Of course, we're going to have site plan, but I'm just asking because I don't remember. I thought those two lots on the east and on the west of the three-family were just fallow lots. Nothing was developed on them at all.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. I didn't. So John Frank's motion to grant. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Jim Corkins. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. John Frank,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
No.
no. Carolyn Morissette,
No.
no. Chairman Assad, yes. This petition is denied. The vote 3-2. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dan. Number 11, DETYGA LLC, Detega, 154 and 160 Brightman Street, Lot S 1639. Variance request to subdivide the existing parcel into 3 lots, leaving number 160, existing 2-family commercial building on Lot 1, proposed lot size 2,316 plus or minus square feet, leaving 154, existing 2-family commercial, 2-family/commercial building on Lot 2, proposed lot 2,218 plus or minus square feet, and leaving the existing warehouse commercial building on Lot 3, proposed lot 3,380 plus or minus square feet, waiving requirements in the BL district.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Dan Aguirre of SciTech CEC. Some of you may recall this petition that was before you on March 21st, 2019, where it was approved with favorable conditions. The variance itself expired March 21st, 2020. It's a very important date. The owner came to me just about after that date, it was pretty recently. And I had to explain to them that they had never come back to me to have the actual subdivision plan done. So the decision was recorded. The A&R plan had never moved forward. Again, the dates are very important. Technically, although we're just asking for the same relief to be granted again, as some of you may be aware of, there was a tolling period due to COVID that the governor had instituted for any permit that was in place prior to March of 2020. So this permit was still valid prior to its expiration and prior to that tolling period begin. It's a rather complicated equation about how many days you get back, and it's basically however many days you are still valid for gets tacked on to the end of when the emergency declaration had ended. Without knowing when that declaration was going to end, I had advised the client that we just go forward and ask for the petition to be reapproved as it previously would. So technically, under the tolling, this permit is still valid. However, if the tolling period ended tomorrow, for instance, it would no longer be. So it would be cleaner and easier for the applicant if we just requested the relief to be granted again in the exact same conditions and same situation that we had back on March 21st of 2019.
Okay. So in case, I think, well, I'm getting a little feedback. In the, so if you look at the decision from March 21st, 2019, it was a unanimous vote to grant the petition with conditions being no obstructions between the structures, easement for crossover for parking and access. Number 3, parking spaces shall be striped and signage to designate what unit the parking spots are for. All utilities shall be separated and an affidavit signed under the penalties of perjury indicating that all utilities have been separated shall be recorded at the Bristol County Fall River Registry of Deeds prior to the sale and or transfer of the property, but no later than 1 year from the date of the grant of variance. So those were the conditions. That's what we granted on March 21st, 2019. So is there anyone out there in favor of this petition? Is there anyone out there that's now opposed to this petition? Okay. Bill Kenny, do you have any new input from 2019?
No,
Hearing
Mr.
none.
Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Bill. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, I said I didn't have any input on this one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members of the board, can I get a motion to grant? Motion to deny. What do you want to do?
Mr. Chairman, I moved that we grant it with the same conditions.
Okay, Jim Corkins, motion to grant with the same conditions. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
John Frank,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. I think that was 5. The petition, that variance is granted with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agenda item number 12, Anthony Cordero, 60 Hotwell Street, Lot N 21-5. Special permit request pursuant to section 86-376, waiving yard requirements in the Arts Overlay District, and special permit request pursuant to 86-445, waiving parking requirements in the Commercial Mill District and Arts Overlay Districts, proposing to construct a mixed-use building setback 1 foot from the street line, requesting up to 57 residential units with commercial use on a portion of the first floor, providing 57 parking spaces, lot size 9,700 plus or minus square feet.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Again, Dan Aguirre on behalf of Anthony Cordero personally, with regards to this real estate at 60 Hotwell Street. You may all know it as the Mass Electric building that had recently been raised by Mass Electric, that sits in between the commercial use at the north corner, as well as to the southerly boundary, what used to be the Salter School as you're driving down Hotwell. Across the street from a number of apartment buildings, and the bus station is just down the street as well. And again, directly north across the street would be the existing parking garage as well. So this proposal before you is an entirely new endeavor, very similar to one that you had approved at 295 Bedford Street that we discussed earlier. This would be a multi-story building, 6 stories, which is allowed by the district, with a total of 57 or up to 57 units, apartment units, with commercial space on the first floor. This does fall in the Commercial Mill District and as the Arts Overlay District, where these both uses are allowed by special permit under 86-376. And in this petition, we are also seeking a similar parking reduction that we received at 295 Bedford Street, and again, similarly as the 2 petitions this evening. When we get into the higher number of units, the need for parking diminishes even further. So when we get to a 57 unit building, that parking ratio actually goes down, as I had mentioned previously in that executive summary from the Metro Boston area and what's trickled down to this area. This parcel is fairly odd shaped when you look at it, because it was subdivided from the parcel N21-3. That was all previously done with the electric company. It is bordered by Route 195, as you can see, and sits directly south of the new mural that you all see directly on the side of one of Tony's other buildings that sits at N21-6. This proposed structure is actually smaller than what previously sat on the site, and is actually a foot off of the street from what used to sit on that property as well. When you drive along Hotwell, and you can see on the plan here, the existing structure at 82 Hotwell sits right up on the street line. The next structure that you'll follow once you get up to number 4, again, sits on the street line. And when you get down into these downtown development areas, you'll see a number of the buildings around us. They all get built out to the property lines. The only reason why we've requested that it be set back a little bit is so that when we do excavating services to install footings and foundations, we do not have to disturb anything within the street right of way itself. So this would again be a 6-story building, 57 units, allowed by special permit. It would allow for the renovation and revitalization of this area, which has been fairly quiet over the last few years, but this could be a spark that that does help, along with the redevelopment of 82 Hartwell Street that's going on as well now, more as an office and retail facility, but not apartments. So as you can see, Mr. Cordero is trying to sprinkle some of these apartment uses in different sections of this downtown area. And as you plant all of these little seeds throughout the area, not just in one specific area, it does allow the area to thrive as well. So again, the argument with regards to the parking reduction, identical to the one that we've just discussed in the two previous applications. You'll also see on this property, there are a number of easements that we've had to deal with. Wall easements, sign easements, drainage easements. We have provide adequate parking, vehicular circulation. The vehicular circulation will actually improve along the northerly boundary with building number 4, because the previously existing structure was right up to the property line. So that's actually going to add better access to the back of that parcel and 21-6 as well. We have shown a designated area for dumpster area, proposed sidewalks, aisles of 22 feet, parking spaces in accordance with the bylaw of 9 feet in width and 18 feet in depth. That's the proposal in a nutshell, Mr. Chairman and board members. If you have any specific questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them.
Special permit request as provided by our grid, as provided by, and the reduction of the parking 1-for-1, which has been consistent with what we've done this evening. Okay. Bill Kenny, why don't you weigh in to give us all an education about for the planning director of the city of Fall River about this project and how it relates to everything else that you see as developing in the downtown area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is exactly the sort of thing that we want to see happen on some of these underutilized parcels downtown. Again, with the ultimate goal of reestablishing a walkable downtown core with people with disposable income who can support retail. Couple of things in particular about this. One of the issues is the proximity of the building to the street line. And when I read this first, I was a little concerned just to make sure that there was a sidewalk being preserved, because you can't have a safe walkable downtown if you don't have any sidewalks. And Mr. Aguirre assured me that if I read the plan correctly, that the sidewalk survives, and that's a good thing. As far as urban design issues, I think most folks, when they look at urban design, will say, no problem with putting the structure right up close to the sidewalk and the line of access on the street. It does a lot of things from an aesthetic point of view, that the absence of buildings and setbacks of one building being 10 feet, another building being 50 feet and back and forth, it just doesn't work out as well from a design point of view. But having them right on the street line like this is no problem. Another thing, it's right across the street from the bus station. If we're going to get serious about using public transportation, well, here's a step in that direction. This very well could have been designated as a transit-oriented development district. That might have been an appropriate overlay for this. But there you are, right across from the bus station. Hopefully, in the long term, that will reduce the need for cars. The other thing is just to refresh your recollection on the standards that you can look at in reducing the parking. When you look at the special permit language, they talk about some of the things we've talked about already. Use of common parking lot for separate uses having peak demands at different times. They have commercial, they have residential, the peak uses at different times for those. And they can use the parking areas, the 3rd Street parking garage and the flat surface parking across from that garage, both of which are underutilized. There's ability to absorb some traffic there, some parking there. Age or characteristics of occupants requiring parking. We've talked about the demographics, and folks that are likely to live in this area are not going to have 3 cars. Let's see, what else? Availability of on-street parking or parking at nearby facilities. We've addressed that. So I think he's more than adequately met the standards. I think the design is good. And from a planning point of view, we want to encourage this sort of development.
You know, I had the same problem you did. Dan, can you show me or just tell me because the 1 foot off was, I was wondering what was going to happen if there was going to be a sidewalk there, and you're saying that it remains.
Sure, and if Brittany can zoom in a little bit more.
Because yours says existing sidewalk and mine does not.
Well, Bill did ask me to submit revised plans, so they might not be in your package, but I did submit these revised plans. that you
That's,
see.
as she made it bigger, I see existing sidewalk.
So
That's
what the question was Bill misunderstood when we said 1 foot setback was to the street layout line, not to the traveled way. So there is the traveled way with the curb, then the sidewalk, then the property line, then a foot, and then our building. So the existing sidewalk that runs along the frontage of this parcel is within the street layout, and that will not be touched. In fact, it's probably going to need to be replaced through site plan review. Bill will end up getting us on a new sidewalk, I'm sure.
That 1 foot minimum at the top of the plan, that's what we're talking about.
That's
from the
correct.
end of the side. Okay. So
That's correct.
you wouldn't have a problem with the condition that the existing sidewalk stays?
No, of course not.
Dan, I just had a question. How big will the units be? And I believe there is a part, I know the building inspector just indicated, but how close is that parking garage to it? That could be utilized?
I don't know exactly how far, but it's not more than, probably 2 blocks.
Oh, so it's walkable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's very close. I think you can see it from there.
Yeah,
Very
I'm
close.
familiar with
you
the
can-
area.
you
I'm
can
just trying to
definitely-
place it. All right, thank you. And just if you could also address how many like bedrooms would these units be? I mean, to me, this is a little bit different than the other ones we addressed tonight, just because there's parking nearby.
Right, so this is a little bit more similar to what was approved at 295 Bedford, if you remember. So this will be an entirely new building, 6 stories, similar to what Tony will be building on Bedford Street, and very similar to what the Carams are building down on Duval Street now. There'll be 1, maybe some 2-unit buildings in here, all market rate, between 700 to 800 square feet. So these are not big units by any means. They are to create new housing in a higher density building with minimal impact to the neighborhood, but will infuse a younger lifestyle into the neighborhood. These are not age restricted. This is not an assisted living facility. This is market rate, higher end apartments, similar to what Tony has done in the remodeling of the existing structures and will be constructing in these 2 new sites.
So 1 and 2 bedroom is what you're indicating?
That's correct.
There's 4 and 3 bedrooms.
And sorry, Tony says there will be 4 out of the 57 that will be 3 bedrooms.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes they use as an office or a den, something like that.
Okay, anyone else? Any questions?
Tony would like to say a couple of things.
We'd love to hear from Mr. Cordero.
I was purposely being quiet because Dan's doing such a good job and I wanted to continue the role, but I wanted just to say that the big picture is I'm a product of this city and I'm trying to deliver my dream, as I mentioned last time, about bringing market rate housing into the city to create a whole economy of, maybe retail, office, etc. I had a plan to bring 250 units. We've delivered 40. And if you add the 4 or 5 projects, and the reason I'm speaking is I don't want to be coy about what the intention was with Ben and Nate and others, but suffice it to say that we're looking to build 206 more units, a signature building that you're currently anticipating a vote on, another signature building on Bedford Street, with the hope that can Fall River change with bringing people with disposable income into inner cities. So when people exit, there's a nightlife and a security factor. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to be cute. I'm just trying to utilize what Dan has said and Bill has said, who's been a strong supporter of me spending. And by the way, I hate to talk numbers, but you're talking 69 to 70 million for all in for a city that I love and we all love. That's why you guys spend all this time on this committee. And I thank you for it. And that's my purpose. I wanted to say thank you. And I hope to deliver on what I'm asking Dan and others to and you, and the board to approve. And I think we'll make a change. I really do.
Thank you. Okay, so we've heard from everyone. No opposition. I think I asked if anyone was in favor, anyone was opposed. But if I didn't, is there anyone out there who's in favor or opposed to this that would like to be heard? If not, have they met the standard for the special permit? And can we get a motion, the board finding that the reduction and modification is not inconsistent with the public health and safety, and that we grant the special permit under 86-376 that would allow this project to go forward? Or if you don't think they did it, deny it.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval that it is in alignment or is not detrimental to the health and security of the area, and that it should be granted.
Okay, Jim Corkins makes the motion with the specific findings for each one of the special permit requests. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
John Frank,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
I find this is different from the others in that there is more accessible parking nearby.
Okay. Thank you, Carolyn. And Chairman Assad, yes. So that petition is granted. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Agenda item number 13, Vanco Studio Architect LLC, 403 Division Street, Lot G484, variance request to convert the existing structure into 20 residential units, providing 11 parking spaces, waiving requirements in the A2 district, lot size 16,401 plus or minus square feet.
Yes. Hi, good evening. Peter Vanco, Vanco Studio Architects, working on behalf of my client. I have two instances of myself in the meeting here. I'm wondering if I can be made a co-host so I can share my screen.
I'll leave that to the technical expertise of Alex Mello.
Thank you.
And if I don't see it pop up in a minute, then please present.
Fantastic. I'm hitting share screen. Alex, try the other instance of me.
Well,
fantastic. It's coming right now. Thank you. Okay, excellent. Quickly run through the site. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Peter Vanco, Vanco Studio Architects. We are proposing the renovation of the large old schoolhouse at the corner of Division and Eagle Street. Not familiar with it. It's fairly dilapidated, has not been occupied for quite some time. Windows in complete need of complete renovation. We're proposing strictly an interior only renovation, absolutely no exterior work being proposed except for basic restoration processes. Our proposal does include, on a vacant parcel that we have next to us, the creation of a parking area, and that parking area can sustain 11 cars. Some 3D views, we plan to landscape the property quite nicely. Creation of interior courtyard, some planting, some greening, and then the creation of the parking lot, also well lit. Going to need all the safety factors there that we'd like to have in a parking lot, but essentially making that in something much different than from what it is right now. We're proposing 20 units that, like this project that preceded us, They are smaller units. They are generally ranging anywhere from 800 to 1,000 square feet. These are generally 1 and 2 bedroom units. So they're intended to market toward a smaller household demographic. Hopefully it's more reliant upon public transportation, bicycles, things of that nature. So I can get into the floor plans further upon request, but for brevity, why don't I look forward to your comments.
Okay. So externally, the structure stays the same. You're going to rehab the structure with windows, roofing, whatever to stabilize it. And the construction is going to be within the four walls of the structure.
That is
And you're
correct.
providing 11 off-street parking spaces.
That is correct.
1 to 2 bedroom units.
That is
800
correct.
to 1,000 square feet.
That is correct.
Okay. Market rate.
Market rate.
You own that? Do you own where the parking is? Do you already own that? Is that part of this, the old school?
We do own that parcel. That is
So
correct.
that was all part of what was sold off.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Members of the board, any questions? Bill Kenny, I'm going to ask you to weigh in to tell us what you think about this project.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. I have a question. I think from the record that was provided, there was a variance granted on this project in 2004. And if I read it correctly, that was for 14 units with a maximum of 2 bedrooms per unit and a minimum of 14 off-street parking spaces. And the proposal now is for 20 units, so 6 more units, but 11 parking spaces, so 3 fewer units. So I'm just wondering what's going on with that?
Great question. I don't know how they were getting to 14 parking spaces in the prior scheme with the land that they had. From what we can find and working with my engineers, we cannot squeeze any more parking out of that adjacent lot. However, they were getting to that number, not certain. I can tell you that the unit types that were changing, so my client intends to maintain a lot more of the existing building than what was proposed prior. For instance, being an old schoolhouse building, it has enormous wide stairs on the inside that were used for egress. We actually plan to maintain those, where prior the scheme was to replace those areas with units. So we actually, in some ways, you could argue, are doing a lighter touch to the interior of the building as well. So what the square footage that was utilized in the prior scheme would have been a lot of stairwells and things of that nature. Our intention, I do want to add, is to add an elevator to the building, so all of the units would be accessible. So all MAB accessible, ADA accessibility across the board.
Is that shown on the plan, the elevator shown on the plan?
It was in the floor plans, yes. We are inserting it here's our main floor, and it'll be inserted into one of our stairwells essentially, which you can see they're all oversized. We essentially will be putting an elevator all the way up through the building.
Have you done a study of the parking situation in the neighborhood?
We have not. Our neighborhood outreach was in the form of letters, and I did receive one call from a direct abutter whom felt that her concerns about parking were not there. She thought there was plenty of street parking, but that favored the renovation of the building, finding that that was more advantageous than any of the concerns that she had. So it was well received from what I heard on my end.
Yeah, I know from speaking with the mayor that he's interested in seeing something done with this building. I guess it's in pretty rough shape from his observation, and so you know.
It is. It's in truly terrible shape. And I think that if we don't do something soon, the building will be lost. There are openings in the roof where water is coming in, animals are starting to come in. And I've done enough of these types of renovations that it goes fast. Nature wants in.
True. Now, I'm sort of familiar with the neighborhood and the streets in that part of the city. And my observation is parking wise, it gets more and more congested the closer you get to Columbia Street. And we're sort of at the other end of this neighborhood, aren't we, near the park?
We're up by Kennedy Park. We're a block off of Kennedy Park.
Bradford Avenue, there's been some of the bishop has carved up some of those into single family house lots.
And I can see where some of the improvements have happened. I didn't expect to be on this long because I had another meeting.
I have a question about the front section of the building on Division Street. That's not adequate to put parking along that grassed area?
Suggest that perhaps
You would probably lose street parking in the process that would exceed the gains that you would have on your own property.
Okay,
and
thank you.
think about this
Yes.
and rather than texting, emailing, and phoning.
Somebody have their mic on. It's kind of disturbing at this end. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? John, you all set? Jim Calkins? Dan Dupere? Carolyn?
Well, I mean, I do think the building needs to be renovated, but I mean, I do have concerns about the parking. I mean, it's a congested area, so what can you do?
Excuse me? Hello.
Good, Carolyn, please, you've got the floor.
No, my parking concerns have not been alleviated as of yet.
No, you have a finite space that you can have the off-street parking. So I guess those parking spaces seem to be to what the parking regulations are, 9 by 18, and that yields 11. So at least that calculation seems to be an honest calculation. There's on-street parking that exists now. The structure is, again, it is what it is. It exists as it exists. There's no change happening there. The presentation seems to be they're using the existing space and not creating units in the wide corridors. They're using what's existing in the school building. So I don't know how else to address the parking issue or to make a recommendation for the parking, unless you say it's a direct correlation to the number of units. But the building, whether or not it's the economic rehabilitation of it being one of the considerations for the hardship, whether a yield of 20 units makes it work versus a yield of 14. And I'm interested that Bill says that he's got a copy of a previous variance. Brittany, I'm sorry, but I just don't have it in my package. And it was 2004 Bill alluded to, so it wasn't something that I was chairman of at the time that I can remember. But in any event, that's what was then. This is now. This is the proposal.
Could I just ask the
You can
proponent,
ask a lot, Bill. What do you want?
like, what's the age of the building? Do you know?
I don't, but I presume late 1800s vintage.
So it's been a fixture in that neighborhood for quite a while. And, you have to consider the economics in a large scheme of, do we want to keep tearing down or letting older buildings deteriorate to where they have to be torn down? Is that environmentally sane, or do we want to rehab and preserve what we've got? And maybe you want to weigh that. Maybe you want to weigh that against the issue of parking. Again, it's a spongy sort of issue, and my observation is that end of the neighborhood is not nearly as congested as it is as you get closer to Columbia Street. Those are the things I think the board has to weigh.
Okay. I see Jake Cavallo there with your hand up, so I'm assuming, madam, you'd like to speak, you'd like the floor.
Yes, please.
Okay. Will you
My
identify
name-
yourself, please?
My name is Tanya Cavallo. I'm here with my father, Jeremiah Cavallo. We are the owners of 366, 376 Division Street.
Okay.
We are all for revitalizing that area. We are really concerned though with parking. We do own the parking lot that is across, as well as the garages that are on Eagle Street. With that being said, we have had numerous people on parking bans try to park in our parking lot to
As it is.
with no trespassing and tow at owner's expense. We're concerned with parking in that area as it is,
In the winter,
especially during parking bans and winter.
so because they're gonna be fights over, because we're gonna be the war of the chairs and everything out on the street, then nobody can park. And every apartment, mostly of ever has 2 cars, and they only gonna supply parking for 2 cars when it's not enough.
No, they're not providing parking for 2 cars. If there's 20 units, they're only providing maybe a
11.
half.
Right, exactly.
I understand, sir. I understand.
No,
sir.
I just want to, if that's your father, I just wanted to make
Yes.
sure that he understood.
Yes.
Parking, what's being proposed for off-street parking, what they have, it is what they have. That's what they've got. And the development will require parking, some on-street parking. Yes, that part of Eagle Street, well, I understand that that's an issue, but that's an issue in the city because it's an older city. We don't have lots of spaces for parking. So I am sensitive to what you're saying, Ms. Cavallo.
Yes, sir. Okay, another thing.
Yes, sir.
What somebody wanted to use, just as it is, they wanted to use my park. And I almost got a beat out of the guy because I didn't let him park on my parking here, on my parking. So imagine now with another 20 cars, or let's say 40 cars, because every apartment will use 2 cars. Let's say 2 cars for each apartment. There's room for them over the summer. But on Division Street, one side of the street is all garages. So nobody's going to be able to park over there, especially on the winter. On the way the school is, it's the what do you call it, the hydrant site. Nobody can park over there in the winter. We have the biggest problem in the winter to park. And that's the issue. We will have a big problem. I'm not against the apartments. That's nice. But I think it's too many units and not enough parking.
Okay. That's a very good equation that you have us thinking about. And you live there.
Yes.
So I know that Mr. Vanco is listening to you, trying to deal and come up with an innovative way to keep the parking. And I'm going to ask him to address that. But at least there's been an introduction between you and Mr. Vanco now, so he knows who you are. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank
Peter,
you.
would you like to address that parking issue? Because obviously parking is going to be an issue for the board, I guess, during the course of their deliberation this evening.
Indeed, thank you. Our suspicion is that the demographic who will be interested in these apartments will not have a high dependence upon vehicles. That is our hope and our expectation. The type of units that we are designing here are small, they're urban centered, they're really built for that urbanite who's they're using public transportation, bicycles, much less of a focus on cars. I think that's really, I think, our answers. Our hopeful renter is most likely not going to be using a car and certainly won't be having 2 cars. Secondarily, the units that are being proposed, they are small units. They're generally going to be single occupancy, maybe a couple. It's not going to be multiple roommates or any situations like that. Just the units just aren't set up for it. So I think it will, the density that we have from a unit standpoint is really representative of the overall occupancy that we'll also have.
Well, Mr. Cavallo, if the project goes through, you should probably reach out to him.
Absolutely, we will.
I know that. Okay. Is there anyone else that's in favor or opposed to this petition? Let's try it again. Is there anyone else out there who is either in favor or opposed to this petition that would like to be heard? Okay. I don't hear anyone else. Members of the board.
Might I just add one last component? I just want to be very clear. The building's been vacant for 20 years and
Okay, yeah.
yeah, that's it. Thank you.
No, okay, yes, that's a consideration. Very good. All right, members of the board, you've heard the presentation. We've got this building that's been in existence for over 100 years. The proposal is a variance to, it's in the A2 district. Multifamily is allowed, but the number of units, and so they're coming here for a variance, dealing with the off-street parking, the conversion of the building into 20 units. The hardship that we're hearing is the building itself, and maybe the financial hardship of rehabbing or saving the building, maybe the consideration of the hardship part. And the building itself is also a component to be considered under 48 Section 10. So what do you want to do? Have they met the burden to grant the variance? Have they not met the burden, and should it be denied? Okay. Jim Corkin, any comment?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Who's that? John Frank?
Yes, I don't think it's not adequate. We've already limited down to one spot per unit, and now we're going to less than that. We're going to a half. That's just going to set a precedence that we can't continue. And I with that, I say we deny.
So the denial, so you have a motion to deny. Okay? Hasn't met the burden. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Is that Dan Dupere?
Yes.
Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. John Frank,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Jim Corkins. Jim, you there? I'll come back to you. Carolyn?
Yes.
Jim? No? 1 minute, we'll wait for Jim. Hope,
Yeah, I don't know why I wouldn't unmute, sorry.
oh, it's okay. So
Yes.
John motion to deny, yes?
Yep, yes.
Chairman aside, yes. So this petition for the variance is denied in its current form. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Agenda item number 14. Salibi Realty 2 LLC, 425 Snell Street, Lot I-2437. This is a variance request to construct a multifamily structure and parking area, waiving lot coverage requirements in the A2 district, lot size 32,756 plus or minus square feet. Yes, agenda item number 14. I think it's Dan.
Yep, sorry, I was on mute. Good evening again, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Dan Aguirre here on behalf of Salibi Realty 2 LLC regarding this proposal to construct a 12-unit, 3-story apartment building at this location. This is an A2 district that requires 100 feet of frontage, 10,000 square feet for the first residential unit, and then 2,000 square feet for each additional unit after that. The building setback requirements are 30 feet for the front yard, 20 feet for the side yard, 30 feet for the rear yard, and a maximum building height of 70 feet. If you look at the plan that we have prepared for you, this lot meets all of those requirements. We meet the frontage requirement, we meet the density requirement, we meet all of the building setback requirements and then some. We meet the parking requirement of 2 spaces per residential unit for a total of 24 off-street parking spaces that you see in the area shown north of the building. What's very important, in contrast to some of the petitions that we came before you this evening, this is not the downtown neighborhood. This is not an area that has ample or adequate on-street parking. There are no parking garages. There are no retail uses. There are no office uses anywhere close that people would migrate from one point to another. This would be a true multifamily building in a multifamily apartment zone district. That's why we feel it is very important to meet the parking requirement and providing 2 spaces per residential unit. You'll see on the plan prepared for you, we have proposed a 22-foot wide drive aisle, parking spaces in accordance with the minimum setbacks, and size of 9 feet in width, 18 feet in depth. We have a proposed dumpster area, adequate proposed sidewalks for pedestrian access, and the construction of this building that meets all of the building setbacks, all of the height requirements. The only relief we're requesting this evening is with regards to lot coverage, where 30% lot coverage is allowed and 50% is being proposed. We would offer, and how we have in the past when we've had this type of request, is that through the city's new initiative of site plan review ordinance, the city ensures that we provide adequate protection to downstream properties, down gradient properties, the city's municipal drainage system itself, and ensure that stormwater management is handled in the correct way. And we normally do that through a series of underground infiltration chambers and systems and collect all of our roof runoff and discharge into that point. With the initiation of these new bylaws and this new stormwater management bylaw, this kind of creates a situation where lot coverage is antiquated. Lot coverage previously had been set as a standard for just that reason, that we weren't creating an increase in impervious surface and just allowing stormwater runoff to run wherever it wants, affecting downstream of properties and the street. So through site plan review, if the board does grant this petition to move forward, they will ensure through the engineering department, community utilities and planning, that stormwater management and drainage is handled in accordance with their rules and regulations. We meet all of the parking requirements. We meet all the area requirements, all of the setback requirements, and the city's own order of construction activities will ensure that stormwater management is handled correctly and will offset this proposed increase in lot coverage. When you read through the different zoning sections and different districts, lot coverage is all over the place, from 25% all the way up to 100% is allowed. So I'm not quite sure why one area should be different than the other, but it is. And again, through careful design for stormwater, we can ensure that that increase in proposed lot coverage will have no negligible effect on anyone in the neighborhood, the street, or the municipality as a whole. We do have a rather narrow, deep lot, so it doesn't necessarily create the most efficient design for parking and for building layout, and that's why this increase in area is required. Topography as well plays a large role in this, where we do need to keep all the development as singularly in line north to south as we can, so that way we can deal with elevation differences to the east and elevation differences to the west and allow the construction activity to begin. So I do think we have some hardship with regards to shape and topography, and in an attempt to meet every other zoning requirement, this relief is required. We could have come in and requested a special permit asking for the reduction in parking, and that may have got us down below the 30%. However, we feel in a neighborhood like this, the parking provided at a rate of 2 per residential unit is very important. That's all, Mr. Chairman and board members. If you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them.
Drainage calculations are going to be dealt, if this is approved, in site plan review.
That is correct. So there have been a number of these in the past that we have filed. And basically they require that we capture all of the runoff for the rooftop and pipe that into an underground system that acts both as a detention facility and as an infiltration facility. And they ensure that the amount of water running off of this site after construction is no more than what it is in its current state.
Correct. No, I just wanted to make sure that everyone heard that, Dan. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Members of the board, any questions about this particular project? So why don't I have Bill Kenny if he has something to say about the project?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on a historical note, one of the reasons that we had lot coverage limitations historically, keep in mind zoning originated in the day before people were worried about infiltration on site and stormwater runoff to the extent that they're worried about it today. So one of the reasons that you had lot coverage limitations was just to create some light and some air and some open space in neighborhoods. Looking at this plan, I think the key is that by providing infiltration and managing the stormwater on the site and being subject to the regulation that the new proposal can't exacerbate the existing conditions, I think that Dan is right. I think that the percentage coverage thing should be waived because he's going to handle the issue in a more, really frankly, a more modern, technologically correct way. And the only thing that I would suggest, and I don't know if this is something that Dan has thought about or his client has thought about, but in addition to the Coltex and the subsurface detention facilities, how about that parking lot? Can you design that to be built with some sort of pervious cover rather than just asphalt, which creates a runoff situation? Can you use some of the modern technologies that are available so that the parking lot becomes an area where infiltration actually happens rather than just runoff? And if the answer is yes, maybe
we can. We can, Mr. Planner, and during site plan review, we can look at different, pervious asphalts and things of that nature to help reduce. Those are some of the stormwater management tools that we would use once we got to you to help with our calculations. But technically, even a gravel surface would almost be considered an impervious surface. So just to get past the zoning part of it, we wouldn't need the relief. Once we got to you, those types of what we would call a best management practice could be implemented to satisfy your office, the engineering department, and the Division of Community Utilities.
Is there a reason that the Zoning Board of Appeals could not include that as a condition to their waiver of this requirement regarding coverage?
No, not at all. I can't dictate.
The zoning board has the authority to do lots of things.
To do anything, correct. I can't dictate what the board would do. However, if the board wanted to make a condition of pervious asphalt, that's not something we would be opposed to.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Dan. All right. I see some other people out there. Is there anyone in favor of this petition that you'd like to be heard? Is there anyone opposed to this petition that would like to be heard? Okay, I guess I didn't see other people out there. So
Mr.
members
Chairman,
of the
you
board,
do have some letters.
I do. I have letters on number 14, huh? Okay.
Two of them.
Wait a minute. You've got them, Brittany?
Yeah, we have two letters.
Was there two or there was one that was amended?
Yeah, one was amended and then another one had come in. I had sent that around. I don't
So
see the.
if you've got them, instead of me trying to figure it out on, so why don't you read the amended letter, because that's the most recent one, if you don't mind. Are these in favor or opposed?
Both are opposed.
Both are opposed, okay.
So revised for May 19th. In regards to 425 Snell Street, the concerns are as follows. Number one, water runoff. with a description. Do you want, I mean, all right. The property at 425.
So who wrote the letter? And if it's a lengthy letter, if they're opposed to it, because, just read it. If it's 4 pages, I'll try finding it.
The property of 425 sits substantially higher than the street, and the abutting property to the left at the street is uphill in both directions from 443 and 435, creating a bowl effect. At said location is serviced by only one storm drain. Currently, there is substantial water runoff from the rear of 425 to the rear of 435, even without a structure there. Can a retaining wall or swale be created by the developer to remedy the current water runoff to the rear of 435? Even with roof runoff filtration chambers, it seems that this will not help the potential parking area runoff. Number 2, parking. It does not appear that the proposed parking will accommodate the 12 units plus guests. Number 3, debris. As mentioned in the first comment and concern, the location is in the lower section of Snell Street, which often collects blowing debris already. Are there plans to include property fencing to control debris? Number 4, noise, privacy, and lighting. While this neighborhood is mixed, multifamily and single-family dwellings, is there any consideration to provide privacy fencing along the single-family abutters, as lighting will be needed for the parking area? How this lighting will be situated as not to overwhelm neighboring properties and residences? Thank you for your considerations. They had included photos that was sent around to the board and are on file for reference at any time. The next letter came from James Levesque, and it's probably 300 words, so bear with me. James Levesque, living at 289 Manchester Street in the neighborhood of the proposed, and am executor of the estate of Ann Bauer. My Aunt Ann estates consist of the property of 428 Snell Street, directly across the street from the proposed. Strongly opposed to waiving any requirements for the proposed or for the purpose of the proposed. The lot in question is extremely large inner city lot, begging the question of why any variance would be needed to develop the property. Property was purchased just a few weeks ago at market rates, indicating no possible hardship could exist regarding its development. Snell Street, particularly in the few blocks between Rodman and Manchester, is much overdeveloped already. Early tenement dwellings built in the 1800s and early 1900s were constructed very close together and often right near the sidewalk of this unusually narrow street. Since then, many single-family homes and larger apartment buildings were inserted into the open spaces that remained, usually in areas where granite ledge near the surface made earlier development difficult. In this section, there are 12 single-family homes, 5 two-family homes, 14 three-family homes, 1 four-family home, 1 5-family, 5 6-families, 1 8-family, 1 12-family, and 1 14-family dwelling. None of the larger properties provide adequate parking, and except for the times when most people are working, there is not enough parking for the people who already live on the street. Most of the properties are market rate with multiple vehicles per unit. Even 2 spots per unit would fall short of what could easily be anticipated as the number of cars this development would generate. In addition, the lot of the proposed development is dramatically sloped towards the street. The site is located at a low point between 2 much higher graded sections of the street. There is already a runoff problem during heavy rains, and there is insufficient drainage at the curb to handle any increased runoff. This proposed project would directly and negatively impact the immediate neighbors, including the property and the estate where my aunt appears, where it appears from the plans that all the runoff from the proposed parking would drain directly. My family has lived in the neighborhood for well over 100 years. My aunt and uncle purchased their house in the 1940s with the help of the GI Bill. Since the 1950s till the present day, only family members have lived in that house. I emphasize this because I have had the opportunity to appear before the zoning board in recent years, and my experience has sadly been that whatever developer, profiteer, or speculator that appears before this board, their requests have been granted to the detriment of the people who actually live in the neighborhood. In the 70+ years that my family have lived across the street from this property, the taxes have always been paid and the rules were always followed. Now, in these times of fast money in real estate, it is likely this board will once again rule in favor of someone who will likely never live on the street over people who have invested their lives in the community. Less than 2 blocks down Snell Street, this board recently unanimously approved a variance for the Argosy High School to overbuild without supportive parking directly adjacent to my house. Now over 400 people a day are filing into the same neighborhood with what was promised to be a generous 45 parking spaces, but materialized as 39 spaces for 45 employees. There is no parking or off-street access for buses, students, family, or visitors. I wish each and every member of the board could have witnessed a year and a half of brutal construction and granite drilling this turned into this neighborhood into a torturous place to live. That school principal declared at the zoning meeting that my students are too poor to drive, and therefore there was no need for additional parking. Amazingly, some of the students are now driving to school, and my neighbors are getting ticketed because they have no place to park and have had to park too close to the corner or directly in front of their own driveways in the houses they had inhabited for decades. This board has approved the development of 6 yet to be built townhouses squeezed in between the school development and this proposed development. More recently, the board approved the construction of 10 houses at the site of the former Holy Cross Church, further pushing the parking problem into this neighborhood. I have found that if a developer can pack the zoning board of appeals process with disinterested parties or claim a political ally or a politically motivated person claiming to represent a nearly defunct neighborhood association, that weighs more than any number of righteously concerned actual abutters. I am begging you to consider the people of the neighborhood when rendering your decision. This is but one judgment for you, but the consequences will be lifelong for the people in the neighborhood. Please think about it as if it was your own neighborhood and think of it, in fact, you would even want to live in your town where your valid concerns are ignored repeatedly because somebody else who had no idea about the place is trying to make a quick buck off of it. Please remember that the city's, page 2.
So I think we get the gist of that letter. So he's opposed to it, doesn't like the decisions of the board that we've done in the past. He's concerned about parking.
Yeah,
Is there
page 2 basically says poorly planned decisions.
Okay, thank you. And that was written by, can you read the gentleman's name again?
James Levesque.
Okay. Thank you, Brittany. And that record will be made part of the record. That letter will be made part of the record. Is there anything else that I need to, and thank you for reading it. Is anything else I need to, either in favor or opposed to this petition? Dan, is there anything you'd like to respond to before we start asking?
Just quickly, Mr. Chair, all of the concerns that have been raised by the abutters with regards to adequate parking and runoff will all be addressed and have been addressed. The reason we're here seeking relief is because we are meeting the parking requirements of the zoning bylaw. We're not asking for that reduction as some of the other petitions before you had. And again, stormwater management through the site plan review process will ensure this plan will not get approved or constructed or occupied without a number of professionals reviewing drainage calculations and ensuring that these down gradient properties, we're a down gradient property from the up gradient properties uphill from us. So we know we have some work to do stormwater management wise, and we feel we can accommodate that through the site plan review process. Anything with regards to fencing, lighting, things of that nature. Again, nothing that we're seeking relief from. If something is requested of us through site plan review, we will provide those amenities as well.
So, thank you. The component pieces of this particular petition, only one variance is required, and that's percentage of lot coverage. In
That's
all
correct.
other respects, it meets all of the requirements of the district.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay. All right, members of the board, you've heard who's in favor, you've heard who's opposed, you've heard what the project is. It's a variance. And have they met the burden by way of the shape, topography, soil condition, the hardship, and the public good? It seems that the hardship is they've conformed by conforming to the zoning ordinance and the bylaws and the parking requirement, they now have come to the point where they need a waiver or a variance from the ordinance in terms of lot coverage. And if you think they've met the burden, then we should grant the variance. If you think we haven't, or they haven't met the burden, then the request should be denied. So can I get a motion to grant, motion to deny? If somebody's thinking of granting, then maybe a condition would be that the parking area should be pervious material. I think that was the one takeaway from Mr. Kenny's discussion about the ability to help or mitigate water runoff. Motion to grant, motion to deny. Conditions, no conditions. What do you want to do? Okay. Jim Calkins, any comment? Dan Dupere? John Frank, Carolyn Morissette?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant with a pervious parking lot as one of the conditions.
Dan Dupere makes a motion to grant with the condition being that it be a pervious parking lot. Okay? Do I have a second on Dan's motion?
I'll second it.
Second, Jim Corkin. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Jim Corkin,
Yes.
John Frank,
No.
no. Carolyn Morissette,
No.
Carolyn Morissette, no. Chairman Assad, yes. Okay, so the vote on this was 3-2. This petition is denied for the variance. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Agenda item number 15, Naomi Soers, care of Mark Levin Esquire, 1030 Dwelly Street, Lot G, 1544. This is a repetitive petition, so we have to act before we get to the actual petition under 40A, Section 16. It's a special permit request pursuant to Section 86-428 to reestablish the non-conforming use of an auto repair shop in the A2 district. Lot size 7,136 plus or minus square feet. So under 40A, Section 16, the board, and Mark, I'm going to let you talk in a minute. I just want to lay the groundwork for it. That what has to happen is a unanimous vote, well, by a vote of 4 members of a board of 5 members or 2/3 vote of a board of more than 5 members, specific and material changes in the condition upon which the previous unfavorable action was based and describes such changes in the record of its proceedings, and unless all but 1 member of the planning board consents thereto, and after notice is given to the parties in interest of the time and place of the proceedings, when the question of such consent will be considered, that's the only time that we can grant this petition. So we have to find, and I think, Bill Kenny, you're going to tell me that the planning board has in fact granted, because you're here before the board, that they found a substantial and material change to
Yes,
the
they did.
previous denial.
That's correct.
So we've got that. So we have to find a same specific and material change in the condition upon which the unfavorable action was based. That being said, Attorney Mark Levin, please tell us about the petition.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thanks for staying late. I represent Naomi Soers, who is an occupant with her family at the 2-family dwelling at 1030 Dwelling Street. She purchased the property, as you heard last year, just about a year ago, with the intent that she would have her husband, who is a mechanic, be able to use the existing garage, office, and lavatory, which is at the north west corner of the property. Prior to her ownership and purchase, she knew that this had been used as a 3-bay garage and had also had used car license for use of it. In fact, some of the things that weren't brought up before were that Frank Ladera had a company called South End Auto Sales and Repairs, and he had licenses for car dealership, used cars, and repair shops from 1983 to 2003. I prepared a package that I use most of it for the planning board and for you, so that you hopefully had time to look through that. When she came before you before, she was going to reestablish not the used car lot, but 3 garage use of the property for that garage, the northwest corner. They did not show parking spaces that would be off-street for the parking. And further, when I read the decision, it might have been confusing that the existing garage on the northeast corner, which I've had relabeled to be residential parking, was not described and might have been confused that that would have been used also for the repair shop. What we've changed from what her petition was in asking for the 3 bays to be reestablished is to make the one garage a 1-bay garage. We set forth 3 customer parking spaces so people can park off street and not on the street. We have provided 2 additional residential parking on the lot and designating that the garage at the northeast corner only be used for the residential parking of 2 cars. This change of not having a 3-bay garage, which might have looked at a bigger operation that was there in the past, reduces that, because it's basically my client's husband that is the mechanic, and he's not going to be working on much more than 1 car at one time. There'll be no painting, there'll be no repair to the bodies, auto bodies. It's strictly mechanical work on an engine. They have lifts. There were lifts there before. They replaced the lifts. They did a lot of the things, not understanding until they were told that they couldn't use the property because they had been in abandonment for more than 2 years of this property. The property itself is pre-existing. Those buildings have been there for many years. That large garage really can't be used for much else. I mean, it's a unique property, it's a unique structure on the lot, and it lends itself to only being used for the purposes of housing an auto body shop, an automobile repair shop, something with the auto industry, but they were only intending to use it now, instead of the 3 bays that were there, as 1 bay. I think when you're looking at the project itself and you look at the letters that we got before from abutters and people in support, they confirmed that there was a garage there, a business garage with 3 bays. They confirmed that that neighborhood is multifamily, surrounding it on the north of Dwelly Street, and on Dwelly Street, on either side of it, you don't see it on the plan, it's mostly a mixed business and commercial use of property. That's why this property had been used previously by Mr. Ladera for auto sales and auto repairs. We're now saying that she's reducing the space. It'll only really be just her husband that's ever going to work there. They have an office. They have a lavatory in there for customers. She lives on the property, so it's not like you have an absentee landlord who's just going to rent out and not care what happens on the property. She lives there. That's her home. They bought this for this purpose. I think that this is unique, this property. It satisfies that, with a special permit, it had been there before, and now we're talking about reducing the intensity of that use before, and it should not and will not be substantially different than had been there, and obviously will not be more injurious than it had been as a 3-bay garage. I think this is the perfect situation where you have someone that has unique property with unique structures on it, and the structure itself lends itself to being used for a commercial purpose. It's just a huge building. If you've been by it, it's a tall, huge building. and you wouldn't use it for anything else. I think if you look at the letters in support of this, in fact, even with the planning board, one of the planning board members knew this neighborhood and confirmed that he remembers it was a garage, and he found that this was an adequate position, where they made the decision that reducing what had been there as a 3-bay and eliminating the used car sales would certainly be a very diminished use of that property as it exists today. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Levin. So with that presentation, does the board find under 40A, Section 16, as the planning board did, that there has been a specific and material change in the conditions upon which the previous unfavorable action was based? So we've gone from auto body, auto repair, 3 bays down to 1 bay. We have some off-street parking. We have a restriction on the existing residential garage. Is that sufficient for this board to find that there has in fact been a specific and material change similar to or identical to what the planning board found to bring it before the board? So I need someone to make a motion that there has been or there has not been a substantial and material change.
So just, what is the difference again? You've gone for a 3-bay to a 1-bay and you've just put parking in the lot?
Parking lots for customers, for residential use, and restricting the other garage only for residential use, not for expansion of auto body, and eliminating the original license for used cars to be sold from the property.
So it would just be a 1-bay garage for repairs then?
Right, and it'd be by appointment only, because obviously it's only one person working. You can't do too much, but we wanted to provide parking for customers who might leave their car there the night before my client works on it the next day.
Change from the original to now is all of the other activities have been gone, and we've limited it to 1 bay and just auto repair. Is that correct, Attorney Levin?
That's correct.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Levin,
Yes,
just to clarify, you're going to have 1 bay in this northwest corner of the lot, right? 1 bay for repairs, right?
there's one repair. They're required by law to have an office and a lavatory for customers. That's it, nothing else.
Are there physically 3 bays there now?
They had 3 bays. They will be eliminating the additional area and just putting in 1 lift in the middle.
Okay, so I'm just looking ahead. If the board were to grant this, maybe they should specify that as a condition, what you just described. And the other question I had was,
But we haven't gotten that far. We still haven't decided whether or not there's been a substantial material change yet. But go ahead, ask your question, Bill.
I got that. I just, I asked him the question, he gave me the answer. I'm saying, if you decide to approve it, then maybe that should be a condition. Now, the other thing, you got 3 parking spaces outside for customers, and there's 1 car being worked on. How many cars can you drive at the same time? I'm not sure I follow this.
We're assuming that someone may drive up, a customer who may not be having their car repaired that day, but will want to come in and make an appointment for a future date. So we want to have the availability not to have cars on the street. That's all it's for, is to make sure that none of the neighborhood are burdened by cars on the street that will absorb all the car activity that could come there at all. You're going to have a delivery truck that's going to come in there to bring pots that my client will order. They need a parking space to put in. At best, my client figures he might have 1 car that'll come in after someone leaves work at night, park it there for the next day when he works on it. So he doesn't expect at nighttime he'll have any more than 1 car that'll be there for repairs, but he wants to have the ability to show the neighborhood that he's providing off-street parking so there won't be congestion when the delivery trucks come in or someone comes in for an appointment.
So those 3 outside parking spaces for customers, that's a change. That was not in the original plan, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
And
Thank
2
you.
parking spaces for residential were not there before.
That's right. I understand. Thank you.
I'll make the motion to, that there is a substantial change and that we should move forward. Is it a bifurcated hearing, David, or no?
No. First, we have to make this vote, and then the next one is going to be, because the petition, I believe, is a variance, we have to go through the variance requirements.
Or
And
a
I think
special,
Mark is
I
on,
see special permit.
special permit.
you've got special permit, the petition, the BA2 that I've got has variance. What did I read? It says special permit to reinstate, to reestablish the non-conforming use under 86-428. So yes, we'll have to make that determination, but let's get through the specific and material change.
So I make the motion that there has been a specific and
Yeah.
material change.
So that John Frank makes the motion, substantial and material change. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Jim Corkins. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. John Frank,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Carol Morissette,
Yes.
Assad, yes, okay. So we've gotten over the 48, section 16 hurdle. Now the special permit part of 86-428. If the board finds, notwithstanding the above, a non-conforming structure that has been abandoned or not used for a period of 2 years may reestablish its protected status upon the grant of a special permit by the board. The board has the authority to grant that and also add some conditions such as 1 bay, all work has to be done inside the garage, that the residential garage only be used for residential usages. And if we want to limit no tow trucks coming in after, God rest his soul, Gene Al's, that was one of his pets. No tow trucks coming in after like 5 or 6 o'clock at night to the neighborhood.
The hours of operation, just, you know, my client intends just Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to 12. I mean, they live there, so they want to enjoy the property too and have some time to themselves.
I'll make that motion with those stipulations of 1 bay. Hours of operation, you say 8 to 5, 9 to 12?
8 to 5 on Monday through Friday, and Saturday, 9 to 12.
Yeah. I know it's not a variance, so we're not dealing with lot lines, but can I put in there no subdivision of that property?
You can make any conditions you want, John.
I don't want,
to make that a condition, yes, you can make that a
yeah,
condition.
I don't want that to be cut off separately down the road and be tried to split out into something else.
I agree with you. That's fine.
No subdivision of the lot.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else?
Hours of operation, 1 bay.
Friday, 8 to
vehicles.
5, Saturday, 9 to 12.
No vehicles being worked on outside.
All work inside the building.
No auto body.
No auto body,
Pending all licenses being issued through the city.
obviously.
Hmm?
Yes, thank you.
And that's John Frank's motion. Okay, do I have a second on John's motion?
Last one.
Second.
Second, Jim Corkins. Any discussion on the motion for the grant of the special permit with the conditions? John Frank,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Carol Morissette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. That petition is granted. Special permit with those conditions. Thank you, Attorney Levin.
Thank you and have a nice evening.
Okay, next item, citizen input. Is there anyone out there that would like to address the board on zoning board specific items? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the March meeting minutes. I saw, Brittany, I think I saw the drafts. I read them. Has everybody seen them? Can I get a motion to waive the reading of the minutes and the adoption of the minutes?
So moved.
I'm assuming that was John Frank. He made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Jim Corkins. Any discussion on the motion? None. John Frank,
Yes.
Jim Corkins,
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. Okay, is there any other business I need to deal with before we adjourn?
Just a quick question, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman. With the governor's listing of the emergency ban on June 15th, are we going to meet in person next meeting?
My last communication with Bill Kenny was that I recommended that for the next meeting and going forward, I would like to have the meetings in person rather than on Zoom. I don't know, Bill, whether or not that's, you and Brittany have received my email about that, but in that, the governor's emergency declaration ends June 15th and our meeting is June 17th. We will be live and in color at City Hall.
That would be my recommendation. If the board members are willing to do that, I think we should meet live.
Well, so let me ask the board members, I mean, is there any discussion about not meeting in person?
If
My-
we don't
my
have the
feeling is
waiver,
that-
we don't have a choice, do we?
I don't know, the rules
We don't
for the
have the
open
legal
meeting law, I don't know whether
authority.
Patrick Higgins is still out there or not. But we can, I mean, there was never a prohibition of a board member meeting or participating remotely. But my preference as chairman would be to have the board sitting in one central place together and getting it done that way. If any of you have any concerns about that and you don't want to articulate it here, let me know.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. We have a second on John Frank's motion that we meet in person. Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? Jim, yes?
Yes.
Okay, Dan Dupere, yes?
Yes.
John Frank, yes?
Yes.
Joe Pereira, I'm going to ask you what your feeling is. Well, I can't hear you. I see the hands going up. Does that mean yes?
Mute. Yes.
Okay.
He's happy
Carolyn
he gets to
Morissette, do
vote.
you think that's a good idea for the board to meet in person?
I really don't know if that's up to us, frankly. I think.
Yeah.
It's not really a vote. I just want to know what you all feel. If you all think yes, then let's meet next month at City Hall.
Fine.
Thank you.
And Joe,
Okay.
the beard is outstanding.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second.
Second.
Second, John Frank. Okay, no discussion. Jim Corkins, yes?
Yes.
Dan Dupere,
Yes.
John Frank,
Yes.
Carolyn Morissette,
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. The zoning board of appeals for the city of Fall River, May 20th, 2021 is hereby closed. Thank you all for your attendance and participation.
Thank
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
good
good week.
weekend.
Thank you.